Tucker Carlson. Have you heard of this guy? I sure have. In our increasingly populist political landscape in this country, I swear to fuck I hear about Tucker Carlson all the goddamn time. And unfortunately, very often I'm hearing about Tucker Carlson from lefties. This is very frustrating for me. Tucker Carlson is a fake far-right populist. If you're interested in knowing how cucked he is by billionaires, then go watch the Vox documentary on why he pretends to hate big corporations. Please, it's so fucking good. It's excellent, okay? Go ahead, go check that out. Okay, all right? However, one of the big issues is that Tucker Carlson's form of far-right populism is very much inspired by the blue Democrat, like, pro-union working rhetoric, where Tucker Carlson will go on there and talk about how big corporations are fucking over workers and, you know, they evade corporate responsibility while they profiteer off the suffering of the masses and what have you. Now that shit sounds really compelling to lefties, you know? They'll be like, wow, Tucker Carlson, a Fox News host, is talking about corporate greed? Wowie! This is our opportunity. We should start to build a coalition with other worker-conscious people. Okay. The issue is, Tucker Carlson is basically a white nationalist. Again, I don't want to waste my fucking time going over logs here or anything, but this dude right now, as I'm speaking, right now, is on his show talking about how BLM is trying to start a race war and how this isn't about race, this is about attacking us and we need to defend ourselves. He defends like this race war rhetoric very free school. He is 100% a white nationalist. He's probably one of the most openly white supremacist people on the entire platform, which is pretty impressive all things considered. So the problem is, not only is Tucker Carlson a white nationalist, or at the very least espouses white nationalist rhetoric, but his populism is fake. He's a Murdoch fake. Literally. They said that in a quote. Somebody said, "You're Murdoch's bitch," and Tucker was like, oh yeah, I would be honored to be caned by Mr. Murdoch. I do whatever he tells me to do. Not exactly the language of a pro-worker populist there, is it? More a person who can profit off pro-worker populism. And while I expect that degree of mindless stupidity from this average fucking Fox News viewer, I would trust lefties a little bit more when it comes to literally propagating the fake populist sentiment of a far-right commentator who is only capitalizing on the populist interests of their audience. I would expect lefties to be a little fucking better. My concern, and this is something I've been seeing a lot lately, is that we're headed towards the Nazgul vortex. That there are lefties who are growing more and more comfortable with class reductionism, who are more and more comfortable abandoning progressive social causes, as long as it means pushing for the workers' interests. What this inherently means, what this inexorably, suggests, is that these people believe that class solidarity and racial solidarity are either mutually exclusive or more difficult to pursue at the same time. And I could not possibly disagree more. Holy shit, that is the stupidest fucking thing I've ever heard in my life. Are you fucking kidding me? Every single major black liberation movement in the United States, from Malcolm X to Martin Luther King to W.E.B. Du Bois, all of them were also socialists. The concerns of the black man and of the worker are one and the same. They live in a power system that suppresses them. They live under the rule of a group of autocrats who profit from their suffering. So the idea, when you look through this history, and my God, what Martin Luther King did for socialism, when he and the Black Panther Party, another socialist organization that fought for black rights, tried to coalition build, Fred Hampton said it best, We do not want to fight fire with fire. We do not want to fight white capitalism with black capitalism. We will fight white capitalism with socialism. The rhetoric, even of these extremist groups, and the Black Panther Party was an extremist group, and I say that with a great deal of love for those people, was race and class solidarity. And it was easy for them. You know why? Because their IQ was higher than fucking 30. But there has been this increasing wave of dipshit, white, class reductionist lefties who are now acting as though Black Lives Matter is racially divisive. I've seen a lot of people doing this, you know? Do we really want to pursue these liberal identity divides and alienate people when we could be focusing on class? Gets my fucking blood boiling. First of all, BLM isn't a race war. There are white and black folk out there on the streets protesting. There are white and black folk hiding behind riot shields, okay? While that may be a racial divide that they are protesting, the fact of the matter is that white supremacy is promoted by black people and by white people. From black people in the ghettos who are complicit, and black people who are in the fucking halls of Congress who are complicit. And there are white people who are sympathetic from the halls of Congress, and there are white people out there on the streets fighting the same causes, linking arms with their friends. Great. It's not a fucking race war. And considering the fact that the vast majority of the people in this country are highly sympathetic to the cause of Black Lives Matter, and this is still a white majority country, it would go. I would believe, perhaps, that BLM is not alienating people who would otherwise be engaged with class solidarity. I want you to find me. Find me this gigantic group of people. Find me this demographic of whites who are uncomfortable with black liberation, who are uncomfortable. I think the blacks had it coming. The police violence is justified, 1350. But also, they're willing to link arm in arm and overthrow capitalism. Find me this great majority. I know there are some people on the internet who are very fond of this particular framework, these Nazis, these literal neo-Nazis who literally want to form an ethno-state. But find me like this new untouched voter population, you know? I'm sure it exists. I'm not denying that. There probably are racist people in this country who will never come around on BLM, but might be able to be moved over on socialism. There ain't many of them. Whereas there are literally over 100 million people of color in this country who have shown, and repeated studies have shown, that people of color have a higher positive disposition towards the idea of socialism than white people do. Because people of color recognize what happens to the individual when they are being subjected to a system that despises them. I am not happy with Chapo Trap House. I mean, I listen to their podcast. I tune in. And a lot of the stuff Chapo says is very nice. The reason they get $160,000 but a lot of the stuff that they say really rubs me the wrong way. They're always downplaying liberal identity politics. Always. They complained about the mainstream media focusing on Trump's insistence on calling the COVID-19, virus the Chinese virus.
Okay.
And they've made some fairly disparaging comments about BLM being this liberal influence. Corporations support you. I hear that a lot too. All the corporations support BLM. Wow, how radical can it be? I hear it from Nazis. Feels weird to hear it from lefties, especially since it's a dumb argument, but yeah, Amber Frost really is the worst. Now, I know the Chapo boys are aware of me, and to my knowledge, one of them is, at this point, unwilling to discuss this with me, which is probably to my benefit, because right now, if I was to debate a Chapo person in any sort of contentious manner, I would probably be dogpiled by the rest of the lefty internet. But can I be honest for a second? I think there's something deeply broken about the Chapo Trap House podcast. I think they're just an empty veneer of populism, a collection of buzzwords and empty sentiments that are stretched over the current political system, That they're not meaningfully engaging with the political, zeitgeist of our time. They're not involved in what's happening. They had their heart, and their heart was in Bernie 2020. And when their heart was shattered, that was it for them. And right now, what do they have? They're just edgelords. They're just left-leaning edgelords. Now, I'm not saying they don't do anything good. They certainly do. And I learned a lot from them. I've watched the Chapo, the podcast, and I've watched and I've listened and I've learned. There are a lot of really interesting stuff. And the people who produce that podcast are, by and large, well-educated people who have a lot of interesting ideas, and I respect that. And I will never not respect the good that they have done in propagating, you know, like a leftist interest amongst a lot of people who might otherwise be disillusioned. But this abandonment of what they call liberal identity politics, which is actually racial solidarity, which is actually rising up against a system as unjust as the one they seem to care about, not only is it asinine and unproductive, I would argue it's actually counterproductive. Because whether you like it or not, socialism in this country is not going to come on the back of a bunch of white good old boys who are finally ready to seize the means of production after them blacks got settled. When socialism comes to this country, it's going to be a multiracial union of people pushing for it. It is going to be a wave of multiracial, multi-ethnic, multicultural solidarity working together to build a socialist country. And you're going to be left out of that if you're going to die on this hill, this liberal identity politics are dividing us. Who? How exactly? And where does that end? Should we not support trans people? Trans people are pretty contentious, you know? Like, in the broader swath of Americana, even some Democrats aren't that keen on trans people. It's a fairly new issue to a lot of people. Maybe we should drop them too. You fuck, yeah, oh yeah. When we're advocating for socialism, somebody asks about trans people, what do you go? Well, kind of weird. Just do whatever they want, I guess. Like, kind of like creepy. Oh, do you think like children should be able to go on hormone blockers? No, I don't really think so. How far back do we want to go? Gay rights? There are a lot of people in this country who think that marriage is between a man and a woman. Well, how do you feel about gay people? See, you can't do this. You can't capitulate every social position you have to please this nebulous and probably extremely small block of voters who are amicable to socialism, but not amicable to social progress. This is not an excellent hill to die on, my friends. And it never will be. But there's a group of people, or I guess I should say a pair of people, who are even worse than Chapo Trap House right now. Yeah, Stupid Poll is like we can actually go right now on Stupid Poll, okay? Let's take a look. Stupid Poll. Sometimes I get linked in here. You know what people in Stupid Poll say about me? You know what they say? They talk about me sometimes. Sometimes I look, you know. You know what they say about me? They say, damn, Vosh is so based sometimes, the way he's edgy, but then he goes off talking about the trannies. That's basically what that's about the sentiment that I get. That's like, they like me when I'm edgy, and they don't like me when I'm, oh, what a time for chat to die. Well, I'm gonna keep on talking anyway. They don't like me when I'm socially progressive. It just seems to be how it works. Huh? Sucks. Though I will admit that I remain a tremendous fan of these gigantic political compass Wojak, you know, things. I do admit to being a tremendous fan of that. Yeah. You know, I just realized that if I wanted to go through this subreddit and find evidence that supports my point, there we go. Welcome back. I just realized that if I want to go through and find evidence which supports my point, I'm actually going to have to read some of these posts, which is reading, and I'm not okay with it. Not all right with that. Welcome back. Happy to have you all back. Marco, you good? There we go. 4-second delay. That's okay. You know what? I'm going to bring you all up to speed. That'll refresh the stream for all of you, which means that you all get thrown back to, you know, media viewing. There we go. So, as I was saying, I think, mindlessly browsing Stupid Poll and wasn't actually making a point. Stupid Poll does do this a lot too. But right now, the people who my eyes are on the most Right now, the people who my eyes are on the most are Crystal Ball and Cigar and Jetty of The Rising, a Hill production. Are we all familiar with these people? I've got a lot to say about these people. Oh, we're gonna get into it right now, baby. So, Crystal Ball, I'll throw it out there, is a grifting bitch. 100%. Now, if I am not mistaken, Crystal Ball has taken nearly $200,000 out of a super PAC that she designed to help progressive cancer. Can we get a? Is that still a thing? Let me see. Did that get resolved? I remember this. But thus far, nobody has benefited more financially from the group than Ball herself. Of the near $500,000 Ball raised for the group, she paid herself more than a third of that in salary, according to documents filed with the Federal Election Commission. Okay, now, Crystal Ball is not exactly a poor person. So, if you raise $500,000 for a PAC, and then you pay yourself a third of that in salary, more than a third actually.
I don't even have a business, do I?
Now, most people, this is legal, I'm not accusing anyone of illegality, this kind of feels like embezzlement to me. Embezzlement's a legal term, again, this isn't necessarily illegal, but it is, I think, morally comparable to embezzlement. Crystal Ball is to lefties what Candace Owens is to black people. Crystal Ball's job seems to be normalizing conservatism in leftist spaces. That seems to be what she does. She seems to be very good at it, too, because Crystal Ball herself is a very intelligent person, and I respect a lot of the stuff that she believes in. But, man, oh man, this show, The Rising, launched in June 2018, Rising with Crystal and Buck, but Buck left and has been replaced with Enjeti. And who is Enjeti, you might ask? Well, Enjeti is a conservative who constantly replies to and signal boosts Tucker Carlson, who talks about right-wing populism and the need for social conservatism. Oh, he's on Tucker's show quite a bit. And the goal of these two, Crystal Ball and, how does it, Sagar? Can somebody help me pronounce that? I saw some people criticizing me earlier in chat. Sagar, gotcha. Soigar, there you go. I'm getting a lot, Cigar. I'm getting a lot, I've seen like 6 different pronunciations. He used to work for Tucker Carlson. Now, I need to remind you, Tucker Carlson is not just some innocuous political figure. Tucker Carlson is an incredibly powerful and dangerous white nationalist who openly works for billionaires and disseminates false, grifty, right-wing populist rhetoric in order to appeal to a very specific audience. If Tucker Carlson had the world Tucker Carlson wanted, we would live in a white ethno-state. If we got what Tucker Carlson raved about, we would have essentially a return to the 1950s era of like union prominence, you know? Slightly more worker power relative to the people who own the industries, but with regards to race and gender divisions, they would be as bad as, if not openly worse than, what we experienced then. The goal of that show, Rising, is to bridge the fucking gap. For Crystal Ball to normalize and popularize
it would be wrong to do that here.
Class reductionist, far-right populism. That is its goal. That is the purpose of it. And I could ramble about this and how dangerous it is to have these prominent, progressive lefties throwing minority groups under the bus so they can make and grift on and steal hundreds of thousands of dollars from a broader effort to normalize far-right populism. But I don't need to, because I have a clip from the Joe Rogan Experience. Why are corporations really supporting the George Floyd protests? What an excellent question to illuminate some people's perspectives on certain issues.
The Joe Rogan Experience.
Mm-hmm. That is what.
Here's our man.
What I like.
why conservatives have to care more about government. That's something I like. One of my pet causes is, look, like, we are living in a society where the culture is against you. Like, we are living in a society where, you know, the cultural elite, the commanding heights of American culture, and you're living in a society where you don't have real power there. And you're all...
The cultural elite, the commanding power in American structure. Now, when I say that, I'm usually pretty specific about who I mean. Who does he mean?
Also living in a society where you have corporate America. Look at these protests right now. Amazon supports the protests, right? Like, Amazon supports the protests. Citibank's CEO. It's the people with the most accumulated capital in America are also on the side of this protest. Why? Because in my view, they use identity politics and racial politics. They want to split the country along those lines. Every single day that we're talking about identity politics and having debates about race, we're not talking about.
Really want to.
So, yeah, this is literally the triple parentheses argument right here. They want to split us up by race and gender and what have you. They want race war. They want everything because it keeps us from talking about class. So, again, I ask you, okay? Really think about this, okay? And really think about it, okay? Right now, popular support for BLM is pretty high. What do you think would be more likely to sow racial division? Amazon supporting BLM or openly opposing it? Really think about what would lead to more cultural conflict in the United States. If the corporations in this country really wanted to propagate a race war to prevent class consciousness, passively supporting BLM by changing their logo and updating their website probably isn't. These are the multi-billion-dollar conspirators that are trying to prevent the socialist uprising, right? I feel like their investment might go a little bit beyond that. I feel like they might. Here's what Amazon could do. What if Amazon said that they believed in the great values of America, one of which is respect for the police, and that they will no longer be delivering supplies to any groups associated with BLM? There would be fucking riots! And what would they lose from that? How much money would they lose from that, really? Of the billions and billions of dollars that they make, how much exactly would they lose? Probably not that much. A small price to pay for sowing racial division across America. My argument here, functionally, is that this idea that they're doing it to promote race warfare is A, dumb, because if they wanted that, they would be taking different actions, and B, presupposes the idea that BLM is bad for racial unity in the United States of America, when, at least according to the polling, people are more united than ever before on the subject of black oppression in this country. It is doing the opposite of dividing people by race. What this man right here is saying when he means dividing people by race, what he actually means is speaking openly about racial issues. And to him, not a dearth of racial conflict is merely people being quiet about their oppression. What's that quote? Positive justice is worse than a negative peace.
Split the country along the lines? I think they just want support for their companies.
Bosh, I thought you argued capitalists split workers amongst things like race and stuff. Corporations don't deliberately do that anymore because corporations use the profit from that. Now they don't. Joe Rogan is actually about to say the only technically correct thing Joe Rogan's ever said in his entire life, okay? This summarizes why corporations do what they do. Watch for it.
We're not
they really want to split the country along the lines? I think they just want support for their company. And they think that it's a good PR move.
It's a good...
Yep.
Nicely done, Joe Rogan. You've demonstrated a superior political and economic understanding to either of the dipshits you are talking to. Corporations will do what makes them money. They're not part of some crazy oligarchical mega conspiracy to secretly destroy the culture of the West to prevent socialism. They're not that smart. Nobody is. They just work on their own bottom line. And right now, because people are supportive of BLM, they support BLM. It's that simple. Corporations will not go out of their way to support a social issue unless they think that it will make them money to do so. That's it. It's that simple.
Exactly.
It's a branding move. And here's the thing is,
There's crystal
and
ball.
this goes back to the coalitions of parties, right? So the Democratic Party caters largely to these like white affluent women, basically, is like the base that they mostly. Right. I know the space well. I'm closely affiliated with the space.
That's not entirely untrue.
I see Joe Biden do
the JUgg base,
I'll pay
right?
for that.
And so, you know, for people who are more or less doing well, as things are, right? They've got their health insurance, they've got a job where they're treated like a human being with humanity, they can get their Uber Eats, they can get whatever they want on demand, right? Their way of virtue signaling is on identity issues.
Virtue signaling. Now, we need to be really careful with our language, especially language like virtue signaling, when Joe Rogan has such a mixed audience. Now, if I were to say something like, Amazon is virtue signaling by supporting BLM, I think most of you understand what I'm saying by that. When I say virtue signaling, I'm saying it's an empty social gesture that doesn't, belie actual values on their part. But what Crystal Ball is saying right here is a little bit more ambiguous. And this is the reason why conservatives will so often accuse corporations of virtue signaling anytime they do anything even remotely progressive. Their argument isn't just that the corporation is being insincere. Their argument is that the corporation is being insincere and therefore the cause is bogus. I have never heard a conservative say, oh, they're just virtue signaling, they should be more sincere.
And if you only confine the conversation on policing to let's deal with this, let's have more body cameras, if you keep it in that lane, that's very comfortable for them, right? If you have a broader conversation about society that, has decimated unions, has decimated working class power, about who has power in society and why.
Look at that slimy comparison right there. Hey, what's super non-divisive and super easy in the democratic stuff, in the democratic conversation?
Right. If you have a broader conversation about society, that lane, let's deal with this, let's have more body cameras. If you keep it anything to let's deal with this, let's have more body.
Yeah, policing, body cameras, those are the easy conversations that the Democratic Party wants you to have.
Working class power, conversation about a society that, has decimated unions, has decimated working class power, about who has power in the society and why, that's more of a threat to them. So,
but you're really challenging the Democratic Party when you do this. My dude, for one, the difficulty of a conversation does not mean how important that conversation is. And the reason why the latter is more difficult than the former is because the former you were specific and the latter you were vague. The former you said police reform and body cams. That's an easy conversation. Well, yeah, sure, because you just outlined what the conversation was. With the latter one, it was, who has power in our... So yeah, of course that conversation is more difficult. But if you want to have a specific argument over which types of policies are difficult to have, I think you'll find a lot of what BLM is pushing for here is not exactly comfortable to any political party in this country. Yeah, defund the police, the super well-accepted, Democratic Party approved position, except even Bernie Sanders said it was too radical for him.
So yes, for corporate brands, it's very comfortable to have let's have a diversity initiative. It's less comfortable to say, no, let's actually value the worth of everyone. Let's actually have a different set of power. Let's actually not have corporations able to give unlimited money and buy up our politicians and then be able to go work on your boards, et cetera, et cetera.
Notice how every easy, superficial, virtue signaling thing she talks about has something to do with race. And every difficult, serious, substantial issue she brings up has to do with class. The way she is subtly delegitimizing the severity of race or gender-based issues in this country.
That's a very non-threatening conversation. That's how you end up with, was it Bank of America who sponsored the movement continues?
Yes, the Black Lives Matter.
Black Lives Matter, the
Bank
movement continues with D. Ray McKesson, who's a prominent activist.
To be cynical, is there another reason why Amazon would support this protest? That this is kind of a death of retail. I mean, this is one of the final nails in the coffin of retail. When you think about it.
And Joe Rogan's back to saying dumb shit. The fucking protests have nothing to do with the success of the retail. What the fuck does that mean? Oh, wait. I'm sorry, I take it back. He might be referring to COVID. I thought he was referring to the protests, like, because people are, like, smashing shop windows, it's the death of retail or something. But no, okay, sorry. If he's talking about COVID-19, then it's much more than that is a blow against traditional retail.
Investing your money in a brick and mortar store with a glass window after all this shit.
Wait, never mind. I'm sorry, Joe. I was being real charitable there. Never mind. All right, sorry. I tried to be charitable. Okay, never mind. He actually thinks that retail is going down because windows are shatterable. All right, never mind. Okay. We're back in the correct timeline. The one where the shit he says is really dumb.
Look, I won't cite who told me this, was a very prominent person in the field of economics, and was like, my conspiracy theory is that Jeff Bezos wants 10 to 15% unemployment, because then what's the best job in the world, Joe? In a rural place.
He's the guy dropping off those bricks.
What? Why would you need 10 to 15% unemployment to invest in building Amazon warehouses in communities with low... What the fuck does that mean? 10 to 15% unemployment, that's like 60 million people unemployed. What? His broader point is true, though? No. The implication that Jeff Bezos is funding the protests? No.
Who's better at delivering shit than Amazon?
There you go. There you go.
Amazon Prime delivered pallets of bricks.
You should be more cynical.
See, like... Yeah. No, I mean that capitalism needs an unemployed underclass? Yeah, 3 to 5%, not of 10 to 15%. 10 to 15% unemployment would be devastating for our economy, and it is presently. 3 to 5% unemployment is frictional unemployment, which is, economically valid.
Cynical, because that, I mean, look, how else do we get to a point where, like, the Shell Gas Company sponsors a 1619 project with Nicole Around, so the 1619 project. So this is the New York Times wrote this thing, 1619 Project, the year that the first slaves were brought to America, and it was about reforming the way that we talk about race and slavery. So the very first essay that she wrote, which is very controversial, and she claimed that the reason for the American Revolution was because people wanted to keep their slaves, not because...
Is this what that PragerU video was about? When did this Joe Rogan thing go live? It went live on June 3rd, and the PragerU video came out a few weeks afterwards. So is this where... Okay, so I just wanted to be made clear. I have never in my life before heard the argument that the American Revolution had anything to do with keeping slaves. But then I made that comment on stream, and some historians actually messaged me and sent me data on how, yes, that was part of the reason. Because even though the British Empire had not outlawed slavery until 1819, the British Empire was imposing stricter legislation on the treatment of and the transportation of slaves. And there was a political machination in the works for slavery to be abolished. And they saw the writing on the wall, and one of the reasons why they wanted to break off is because many of the landed gentry in the 13 colonies recognized that if they were still part of the British Empire, when that happened, their slaves would also be deeded away from them. Yeah. So that's actually... now, I don't know if that's historical consensus, but from what I've looked at, that's actually, it's a fairly compelling argument. And it makes sense, too. For example, one of the reasons that the Founding Fathers also led the Little Revolution was because there were, I mean, we know this, there were tax benefits for them. No taxation without representation. Well, people like Washington had representation. They were extremely wealthy and prominent aristocrats from the, from England before coming over to the New World. So there was a tax benefit, for them to secede as well. Now, none of these are the single reasons why. The American Revolution probably has like a million reasons why it actually happened, but I think there's an argument to be made. in 1772, English courts ruled that slaves on British soil were freed, if I recall correctly. Is that true? 17... Yep. Mansfield ruled in 1772 that no master ever was allowed here in England to take a slave by force to be sold abroad because he deserted from his service. Yeah, so... Yeah, that was right around the time of the Revolutionary War, so it's possible they saw the writing on the wall, you know? Anyway, it's a complicated historical issue. I'm just saying there is some legitimacy to that argument. I'm not a historian, and I haven't looked at enough data for me to concretely decide.
Because of control from England. What happened is that a bunch of very prominent historians of the American Revolution, the Civil War, and much more panned the essay that said this thing needs to be corrected. They corrected it. Even then, she still won the Pulitzer Prize for journalism, or for commentary, I want to say, for that specific essay, which was there. And they partnered, I think it was with the Pulitzer.
Wait, what's the point so far? A person wrote an essay and got a Pulitzer? Where does this get populist?
Center in order to create curriculum that schools are now using to teach. Now this was attacked, the 1619 project, not at first by conservatives. Of course conservatives were pissed off. It was attacked by the World Socialist website, by Trotskyites, by Marxists and socialists. And the reason why is because they saw it for what I see it, which is that it's a cynical attempt in order to say America is an irredeemably racist nation.
What? What the? Okay, listen, I can't speak to the brainworms or whatever Marxists or Trotskyists or whatever said this. First of all, I should note that this person is a co-host to Crystal Ball, a very prominent progressive political pundit, unironically making the argument that we should erase American history or not consider it because it makes us look bad with regards to racial treatment. And he's throwing this up this cover like, actually, it wasn't the conservatives, it was the Trotskyists who made this criticism. The argument that America's revolution might have in part been inspired by a desire to keep slaves has nothing to do with America being irredeemably racist. Nothing is irredeemably anything. Every country has had a racist past. I mean, find me one that hasn't, but that doesn't mean we can't, like, push it forward. This is the most cynical attempt to rope lefties into thinking they should agree with conservatives that we should erase history. This is literally just like people like Ben Shapiro making the argument like, well, when they teach about slavery in the history books, they're not really teaching you about history, they're teaching you how to hate your country. It is the same argument. It's insane to me.
That is the only single and most pressing problem that we have in our society. And if you...
Nobody has made that claim, and I guarantee you the essay did not make that claim. That is the only... Find me... If somebody can find me the 1619 Project and find me a line from it where it says that racism is the only issue in America, I would be fucking delighted.
You hold that frame, then you don't ask questions about corporate power.
Nobody holds that frame. Again, this is the lie of the Nazbol. The idea that racial solidarity and class solidarity are mutually exclusive. You can't simultaneously believe in socialism while also believing that America is a racist country that needs to be like, you know, addressed in that sense.
In America, you don't ask questions even of leaders. A friend of our show, Zed Gilani, had a fantastic appearance on our show. I really encourage everybody to go watch it, where he talks about, if you look at the black community in America, which is what had the most pressing impact on their life economically and destroyed so much of their livelihood, it was the foreclosures under Barack Obama, and it was the wipeout of black home ownership
it would be wrong
and black
to
wealth.
do that here.
It was fucking slavery! What? Oh yeah, that's truly the heart of the black condition in America, the heart of their exploitation. Truly, was Obama-era foreclosures. 100%. It was absolutely the 2007 financial crisis. 100%. That's truly... If you dig that, back in 2006, black people were doing hunky-dory, okay? Obama runs around, foreclosures following the financial crisis. Ah, damn, racism happened again. What the fuck are you talking about? The only reason those foreclosures disproportionately affected black people was because of generational poverty following from slavery and the Jim Crow laws. The only reason those foreclosures were racially prejudiced was because they were building on economic prejudice that came from slavery. Or was slavery just a class issue, perhaps?
That the 1619 Project and the framework of politics is that original sin, which of course is the
original sin. This is literally a PragerU talking point. Crystal Ball is supposed to be a fucking progressive. This is literally a PragerU talking point. The regressive left believes that every white man carries with him an original sin. You were born privileged, you were born white, and this is nothing you're ever going to be able to apologize for. This is I've heard this from the lowest IQ conservative arguments, and this is being used to justify right-wing economic populism. And Crystal Ball, the progressive, is just sitting there letting this happen. This is her co-host.
The original sin is the be-all, end-all for why we are where we are today, absolves current political leaders.
Nobody has ever said that.
And recent political leaders, like Barack Obama himself, or like leaders in the city of Atlanta, or leaders in the city of Baltimore. And
oh yeah, Black Lives Matter types are huge fans of Obama and the city leadership in Baltimore and Atlanta. Oh yeah, racial progressives in this country, if there's any group of people they're fans of, it's the leadership in Baltimore. He's just imagining, like, these people. He's just imagining a group of people who are so blinded by false race politics that they will ignore any class analysis. But this is being done by people, like this fucking guy, who will ignore any race politics to the benefit of his class politics. Except by way of being a conservative, I guarantee you that this guy is not actually a socialist.
And that it absolves public policy which is non-racial. And so when I say that, why does Shell Gas Company feel comfortable sponsoring an event in which the main message is that America is an irredeemably...
Nobody said irredeemable. Find me the 1619 thing right now. Chat, right now. Bring it up. I'm not joking. Where is it? 1619 Project? Give me a link. The New York Times link is not working for me. Full issue? Here we go. New York Times Magazine. Here we go. The whole goddamn thing. Is this... Ah, yes, the text. Does it work? Yes, it works. Okay, let's see if we can find the word irredeemable. Oh! They didn't say that? That's just a stupid fucking straw man narrative you're projecting? Interesting. Well, he did also make the claim that people who wrote 1619 are pushing a narrative that race is the only issue that we should be looking at. Let's see. Let's look for only. We get 67 onlys. How about only issue? Oh! Well, hey, listen. I'm not gonna scroll through this entire 100-page. Yep. Just to make sure I didn't misspell it. I'm not going to search through the entire thing. Irredeemable. Oh. Yeah, up there. I didn't misspell it. If somebody wants to go through the whole damn thing and find me a segment where they say either that America is irredeemably racist or B, that racism is the only issue America faces, I'd be very happy to hear that. I wonder if Crystal Ball... What does Crystal Ball call herself? Crystal Ball. American political pundit and journalist. It doesn't actually say progressive. That's nice. She's being more honest. I'm serious. Candace Owens really is the... I'm sorry, Candace Owens. Crystal Ball really is the Candace Owens of the left. 100%. But instead of a race issue, it's a class issue. It's reeling in conservatism and far-right populism by way of her association with a given group.
Racist nation, because that is one more event which is being talked about in the political zeitgeist by the cultural elite, which is not talking about their own power in the marketplace.
Notice this this vagueness, this non-specificity. Cultural elite. What does that mean to a conservative? More importantly, what does that mean to the audience?
The harvest is ready at last.
See, I don't know if this guy is a JQer. He literally worked under Tucker Carlson, so it's not exactly an impossibility. But what about the audience? Do you think the audience might be interpreting something other than that which this person actually believes? Do you think he would care if I pointed it out to him?
And if you look at what is the predominant control in your life in America, it is about capital. It's not about race. It's about class. But class disproportionately affects people.
It's about both. There is no harm in recognizing an intersectional approach. Like I said, black revolutionaries have been the vanguard of socialism in this country for 100 years. They have been the forefront. So how can would you do that to MLK? Would you go, or to fucking Fred Hampton, like, hey dude, you're a socialist, you're a Maoist, that's super cool. Do you think you could drop the race stuff? I think your movement would really benefit from the inclusion of people who are uncomfortable with racial equality.
I'll get this cleaned up.
People of color in America. And so the way I look at it is that identity politics is so cynically grafted on by the billionaire and the corporate class. There's a reason they're all...
Remember, because corporations cynically profit from involving themselves in social movements, that means all forms of race and gender-based advocacy are cynical and hollow. Remember, it's literally a PragerU argument. Literally a Nazi argument. I hear this shit from Nazis. Oh yeah, dude. Nobody actually fucking cares about fucking trans, whatever, just corporations with fucking Trans Pride Month, yeah. Nobody actually gives a fuck. I hear this shit from them all the goddamn time. And it's just being regurgitated, ad verbatim. Crystal Ball, you okay over there? You want to step in?
All super woke. It's because they want it to be this way so that we don't talk about their power in our society.
Ah, yes.
What up, Eric?
The trans and black communities, very well known for being subservient and complicit to corporate power. The groups that benefit most from this cynical corporate support are also the groups who are most disproportionately socialist. So they're obviously not succeeding in distracting people from class issues. Black people are significantly more disposed to socialism than white people in this country. Transgender people are significantly more disposed towards socialism than cisgender people in this country. But when corporations throw up trans and BLM flags, they aren't doing it to dissuade people from class consciousness. They're not that competent. They're doing it to make some money. They're doing it so they get featured in a Time article on woke corporations. They're doing it so they don't get a bunch of people on Twitter canceling them, okay? They're doing it because it makes sense for them to do it, not because it's part of some nefarious fucking scheme. One of the worst tendencies of left or right-leaning populism is the ascription of every social force to some sort of deliberate and malicious narrative. The point, the fucking essence of Marxist analysis of class is that these biases can continue to manifest in the absence of maliciousness. That's the point. It wouldn't be a very good system if oppression could only be brought about by a cabal of hyper-sociopathic dipshits at the top. That would be an unsustainable system. You would only need one morally competent person at top to fix it. No, the real nefariousness of this system, of racism, of sexism, and of capitalism is that it can be propagated by well-meaning actors who aren't acting maliciously, who are only acting out of their own interests and out of the dogma that they have both been fed and feed to others. This is basic class analysis. This isn't intersectional wokeness. I could be reading this to you from Capital. So for people to sit here and go like, well, it's the nefarious scheme to divide people's class interests by introducing pro-trans people. No! That's not how it works! Fuck you! Read Marx. Read all theory, as I have.
And I think this was a very like the way this all happened is kind of crazy because it started out in the sociology departments in the 1970s.
Started out in the sociology. Call me out, baby. Call me the fuck out, you fucking smooth-brained cunt. God, I would love to get one of you on my fucking show. I don't have a show, I have a stream. On my stream.
All of these crazy, from the post...
Craze.
From the 60s era. They were, in these sociology departments. And they started...
This is the Frankfurt School argument! This is literally postmodern neo-Marxists! These were socialists! This guy's literally regurgitating a Nazi conspiracy theory, the Frankfurt School of socialists that ended up infiltrating academia in our sociology and criminology departments. This is literally a Nazi argument, but the Frankfurt School people were socialists. They just applied class critique and critical theory to other forms of social aid. And they were base as fuck.
Frank, those absolutely crazy papers on feminism.
Oh, find me one of those crazy papers. Find me one of them. All these crazy papers on yeah, very intellectual.
Identity politics, racial politics, all of that. And then what
What's crazy about them? These are literally just papers on the existence of sexism and racism in this country.
What happened is that corporate America and other cultural elites, first of all, were being indoctrinated in the university system. They were going...
Corporate elites were being indoctrinated by Frankfurt School-inspired sociology classes. Oh yeah? Yeah, fucking J.P. Morgan is being fielded by somebody who took fucking Soch in college? Are you fucking kidding me? This is a Nazi argument! This is literally just Nazism! This is just the JQ if you just ignore the Jewish bit.
When they go work at places like McKinsey and others and brought their racial politics and their identity politics with them. But that there had to be a recognition from the top. From people like Goldman Sachs. If Goldman Sachs...
Holy shit! Of all the elites in this country, he chose Goldman. This is just the JQ!
I cannot carry this.
Oh yeah, dude. Oh yeah. All of them are totally getting indoctrinated by fucking social studies courses. Jesus Christ. Please, God, mention. Oh God. Oh my God. Please mention fucking Kushner. I'm ready.
The pressure on them is to stop the way that they trade derivatives, or to put a black person on their board while they continue to, do the derivatives trading. They're going to choose that every single time.
Right.
So they want to direct the conversation in that direction. It absolves them for the sins, both, towards the economically disenfranchised in America, but it's also a very cynical tool, which is that...
This is the most dumb, brainlet fucking argument. This would be like, this means that any time a corporation does something good, it's a sinister plot to distract people from the actual thing they should be focusing on, and also it's working. There is no logical through line here. What if they just got more racially progressive because they realized that America was changing and they were adopting their power structures to, get less hate? And then, as America gets more actively socialist, they're going to fight against that specifically. It's not like this one-off thing. Back during the 1960s and 70s, that was the Black Panther Party. Do you think the radical socialists of the time were, seeing them get black people on the board of executives and going like, oh yeah, that's enough, that's good enough. There is no logical through line here, but the degree of open conspiracism is insane. Are you guys comfortable with me saying Crystal Ball is a Nazbol or a Nazi sympathizer? This is insane. I haven't watched this before. I watch everything with you guys for the first time. This is an unbelievable adherence to a Nazi conspiracy theory.
Why is it that you see all these corporations, tweeting out Black Lives Matter, Instagram blackout, all that stuff?
Because it makes them money. That's it. It's not that complicated. Read Marx. That's why corporations do shit.
How is it that you see Nike? Isn't this the great irony that Nike, went and did the whole Colin Kaepernick thing, the ad campaign, and they still got all their shit looted in this most recent thing.
How do I parse this one? So, first of all, oh man, there's so much for me to go over here. First of all, Nike already sold all of their shoes to the outlets that are selling Nike shoes, so they still make money. Most Nikes aren't sold at Nike stores. They're sold to other outlets, so they already got the sale. They already made the money from the sale. Second of all, doesn't this indicate your whole conspiracy theory doesn't work? That even if corporations do make cynical, soak-just, gestures, they're still not going to be, spared from, antagonism? Third of all, I'm pretty sure that typically speaking, rioters and looters don't really choose which corporations to loot based on what ad campaigns they ran a few years ago. Fourth of all,
yeah. I mean, I just
saying they got all their shit looted from an anti-Black Lives Matter class reductionist conservative makes me feel like this motherfucker would use the phrase blacks are chimping out in 2016. I don't know. That's a little bit of inductive reasoning on my end. I'm pretty positive that's this guy's thought process right now. That's why he thinks this is so funny. Pretty sure his approach towards this is one motivated.
How'd you find me on Twitter?
Let's say not a neutral and ambivalent perspective on black criminality.
Chicago, right? I mean, I think that's the perfect example of they try to cynically use identity politics in America, split people apart to protect their power. And if we
except it doesn't work and you have no evidence of it working and everything you just said is baseless conspiracy, and even if it did work, even if they were doing that for that reason, that wouldn't mean we should abandon social justice causes. It would just mean we should stop listening to corporations, which nobody does anyway, and everyone makes fun of corporations for cynically promoting social justice, even people who are part of the groups that are being promoted there. Black people go on black people Twitter. Do you think they're all like, whoa, dude, Apex Legends supporting Black Lives Matter. I guess they're totally okay now. Do you think that's what they're doing? Everyone makes fun of the corporations for this. It's just considered a symbolic gesture. No, there are not people who are being knocked off class wokeness by fucking adverts at the beginning of web pages.
Start to understand that it's a lot more about class in America than it is about race.
It's about both! It's about both! It's not a competition!
Not saying that there is not racial problems in America, racism, that, all of this, but that if you focus on these class issues, it's the best way to help people, to people who are disenfranchised, who are disproportionately people of color, but to help everybody. That's a much more, I just don't know how else we can live.
What if we did both, because they aren't mutually exclusive and it doesn't hurt us to do both? This is like talking to a fucking person who's not voting for Biden. Wow, dude, you just want to vote for Biden, cuck yourself to the establishment? Why don't you do direct action? You can do both! Just do both! Both things! Just do both!
In a multifaceted nation like this, which is, economically heterogeneous, ethnically, people, so many people of different ethnicities, so many people of different religions, I am the son of Indian immigrants. I feel fully and completely...
Whoa, why are you id-pulling this conversation, you fucking hack? Aren't you a business owner, you piece of shit?
American. That's an amazing thing. That didn't just happen. It was the product of a result of very specific...
Way to divide the movement. There were probably a lot of working-class white Joe Rogan fans who are watching this, and now they've been informed that you're ethnic. They probably don't give a fuck much about your social message. I really think you should reconsider this, the extent to which you're willing to dilute your class message with vacuous id-pull. What, your parents were Indian? What does that matter? Whatever experiences they had that were negative were probably more motivated by class than by race. Why is this relevant to this conversation at all? Are you trying to get woke points? Is this virtue signaling?
Political choice.
Just so you guys know, what my little meme just there was literally identical to what he's doing to the broader political conversation. Literally. It's literally the exact same thing. I'm not parodying it, I'm just doing it the other way.
Choices that we made over time. And it's moving towards that we need to go towards. And that's what, but by doing so, what you've talked about many times, about economic, not just distribution, but about the power, who has power in society, working class or not.
Yeah.
Which is the corporate America can use the identity politics in order to make sure the working class doesn't continue to have power.
And hey, you know what? Racist people can use class politics as a way of obfuscating racial identity. Except, whoa, they're doing it right now on the Joe Rogan show. That's incredible. Wow. People obfuscating and suppressing a social movement to the benefit of another movement? I'm gonna fucking kill myself, dude. I can't believe this. I have to get Crystal Ball on my fucking stream. I will do anything to roast this piece of shit. I know this fucking guy, I actually forget his name right now. I know this fucking guy would be like an easy walkover, but people don't simp for him. People simp for Ball. I need to go for Ball. I can't fucking believe how bad these people are.
And so you can't separate class and race because it's not an accident, of course, that black and brown people are disproportionately the lower income. And
we finally stepping in after 10 minutes of conspiracism?
Poor and working class in society. I mean, I see it much more simply, sort of like what you were saying. It's virtuous. It's like a branding exercise, right?
No, never mind.
So, yeah.
And there's this whole idea. I always think it's hilarious on the right of like Facebook and Twitter are progressive or they're liberal companies or Amazon's a liberal company. I'm like, what are you talking about? Amazon treats their workers like shit. They bust you. And it's like, this is not a left company, right? But because they use those sort of branding tools and tweet out Black Lives Matter, which is no threat to them, and in fact, as you're pointing out, may very much benefit their bottom line.
Yeah, that's why they do it. No shit. They do it because it benefits their bottom line, not because it's part of some 19D chess plan to split people up and create a race war. If you have an issue with people believing Amazon is a progressive company, based on their stupid little virtue signaling whatever, I criticize corporations for doing that all the time. But you realize getting rid of corporations for doing that, or getting rid of corporations doing that, or failing to acknowledge the social problems that corporations are making vague gestures at, isn't going to make those liberals on Facebook socialist. By the way, they had Andy Ngo on their show and they didn't push back at all. Holy fuck, is that true?
A journalist who was attacked during a clash between the Proud Boys and Antifa in Portland, Oregon.
Jesus
Christ!
Christ!
This week, Andy Ngo is in D.C. in order to discuss the extremist movement.
This comes just days after 2 Republican senators introduced legislation that would late.
Andy Ngo is literally a fascist. His banner art was done by Stone Toss. There's video recordings that were out at the time of this recording showing him working with a group of fascists to plan an attack on another group of people unprovoked, and he was with them and he had his camera off.
Label Antifa, quote, domestic terrorists. Andy was one of 3 people who ended up in the hospital after being beaten in the June brawl. Police later made 3 arrests in connection with the incident. And Andy joins us now to discuss his visit to Capitol Hill, as well as continued clashes between Antifa and the far right. He's an editor at Quillette. Andy, it's great to have you here. Thanks for coming.
Pleasure, thank you.
First of all, how are you doing?
As your viewers can see, the cuts and bruising on my face have mostly nothing was done.
I
even
cannot
when
carry
the suspect
this.
was identified.
Old, elderly citizens. In many ways, they're the ones who are provocative and who are violent. They're organized, and they're the darlings of media. You have CNN's Chris Cuomo and Don Lemon defending these people, and then they go and attack you, and what? We hear nothing about it.
This is literally them attacking Antifa and defending Andy Ngo.
Worried that your work provides false equivalency?
I'm so glad you brought up this point. Thank you.
So ask a really easy softball question that he can respond to because he's been trained to respond to it.
You know, I'm not working to bring some type of parity in this.
Yeah.
Just a week and a half ago, this didn't get very much attention. An Antifa militant in Tacoma, Washington, which is close to Portland, firebombed a government facility.
That's right.
He attempted to, according to police, ignite a 500-gallon propane tank. He had a rifle that he allegedly aimed at.
I remember that one guy. They used a fucking video clip.
Prince and
They used a video clip from Project Veritas in this video as a source.
Andrew is one piece of the puzzle in the story of Jeffrey Epstein, but he and the British royal family appear to have played a very key Kate's wedding. Prince Andrew is one piece of the puzzle in the story.
Where is it in here? I don't see it. That's his monologue, not a news segment. Gotcha. Where's the... I think he just linked me a random timestamp. I don't see it. It's somewhere in the video.
Someone was killed. Writing my story in a partisan way. I mean, stripping away the views that I have. At the end of the day, what happened was somebody who works as a journalist was attacked.
This is, I can't overstate how severe this is. At the time, everything we know about Andy Ngo now was known to Crystal Ball. This is literally just them platforming a person who is openly a fascist and works with neo-Nazis, allowing him and abetting him in attacking Antifa while lying about the nature of certain interactions and clashes that he's had. Also, his accent is fake. He has never been to England. I am very comfortable in saying, following all of this, that Crystal Ball is either a Nazi or Nazi sympathetic. Or at the very least, is so blinded by a pursuit of populism that she doesn't give a fuck about anything else. She doesn't give a shit about anything else. I don't know. But judging from the fact that she stole nearly $200,000 from a PAC for her salary when she already makes a fuck ton of money from other sources, I think she's just a goddamn grifter. And I want this known. And I'm actually, just this fucking once, I am putting out a call to action, okay? I am putting out a call to action for all of you, okay? Crystal Ball is an enemy to our movement. I don't know what exactly Crystal Ball believes, but I know what she does. And from now on, in every engagement, in every interaction, every time she comes up, every time you're discussing her, every time you refer to her, every time it's relevant, you will express with the deepest sympathy how you feel about Crystal Ball. That's what I want you to do. Because the fact that people are treating this woman and her little fucking co-host as some sort of legitimate pro-populist blow against the corporate establishment as opposed to what it really is disgusting to me. And what it really is nothing more than a Trojan horse to enable and propagate far-right populism as represented by the co-host, as represented by Andy Ngo, at the expense of leftists, at the expense of people of color, at the expense of every other minority who would live under the boot of a world brought about by Andy Ngo and his fascist thugs and the Nazis he provides kill lists to. So just let it be known, all right? Jimmy Dore and Kyle Kulinski stand her? Yep, because Jimmy Dore and Kyle Kulinski are low IQ populists who don't know anything about politics and don't actually have any principles, but they'll side with anyone who sounds sufficiently anti-corporate. That's all these people have. If somebody walks up and says that they don't trust corporations, that's all it takes for people like Jimmy and Kyle to run up to them and start sucking their cock. All right? That's true. It's just true. They have no principles. They just don't. Kyle used to stand Sargon. Wouldn't surprise me. Has it really been confirmed that Andy Ngo sent a kill list to Atomwaffen? I'm not.
Reuters, roped up in Portland. Let's see. Oh. Assaulted. Connections to crowds. Fox, of course, they're at propagandists, but. So it just seems like there's no evidence of him starting a. I don't see any evidence of him starting an attack. That's kind of suspect. You do you. Yeah, let's switch over to.
Yo, what's up, you beautiful people? It's Koga here again with a little quick update to my Wintertide starter that I started in Harvest League. The brand skill itself is a little bit complex. I wanted to give you guys all the knowledge that I've already attained from playing the skill and, and figuring out all the little problems that I've seen from the build and actually fixing it, and give it to you guys for free in a quick little update video. And so you guys know, Waggle did win the competition for the laptop using Wintertide brand, so that should give you an idea how good the brand skill really is. But on a quick note, I do stream on Twitch at twitch.tv/Kogaras every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So if you want to see where the magic happens and how I make my builds and how I make all my ideas, it literally happen on stream. And if you guys have any questions on your builds, I'm glad to help, and that's what I'm here for. So thanks for watching. Before we get into the quick detail and stuff, here's a quick little montage of how the brand skill is working out for me.
When I'm ready and not before.
Okay, welcome back, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed what you saw. Now let's look into the detail of how Wintertide works and how to make it do broken DPS. Well, first is read the skill because it's actually pretty complex. So Wintertide brand is a brand that deals damage over time. It does not hit the enemy, so if you do try to do curse on hit, it does not work. Now, if you have, let's say, fire damage to your spells like I do in this one, and you look at your tooltip, it tells you to do fire damage. That is not true. I'll go over that detail visually for you guys to see, but let's keep reading on. So what happens is, as usual for brand skill, increases in reductions to cast speed increase how fast it activates. Wintertide actually has the fastest activation speed out of any brand by far, starting with 0.25 seconds. Sure. In our current build of all the cast speed that I've had, and Arcane Surge, our activation speed went from 0.25 to 0.13. This is very important because how the brand works. If you read it, it says it activates every 0.25 seconds while attached. And while attached, it gains, ignore that, 97 chaos. I kind of need the money. Sorry, be right back. Okay, I apologize for that. Let's go back into the Wintertide brand. So if you read the description, it gives you a general idea of how it works with the brand activation speed and everything. It's a magical brand that can attach to a nearby enemy, dealing cold damage over time and chilling them. It periodically activates, is the keynote, right? While attached, gaining stages that raise the damage. So basically, you want it to last longer so it can hit the maximum amount of stages and do the most amount of damage. When removed, a short duration debuff dealing the same damage over time, so the higher the stages or just the max stages, that same damage over time has been maxed out with the applied debuff, and then the skill is applied to each nearby enemy. And this is where basically the clear comes in, but there's an issue with the clear, and I'll go into that very quickly. But as you guys can see, the whole point of the skill is that you want to get the maximum 20 stages. So what you really have to do is you have to make sure you have enough cast speed and duration that you always hit that 20 stages in a single target. And the best way to calculate this, honestly, is follow your handy dandy calculator, right? And you go into my tooltip. It tells me that, use the left, my duration says can be attached for a total duration of 3.3 seconds. 3.36 seconds. My activation speed is 0.15. So we don't have Arcane Surge, right? 0.15. You divide that by that, and we hit a maximum of 22 stages. So we hit our cap. And honestly, the only thing that I've actually invested in duration for the skill is just these two notes here. Give you duration. Malevolence is the aura that gives you duration, and then I have efficacy, which is probably the best in slot gem, one of the best in slot gems, Wintertide. That give you ultra specific duration, and that was more than enough. Though, however, I don't recommend you guys to invest into duration that much. Instead, I recommend you to invest into cast speed more, and I'll explain this now. So let's first go into how this skill works, right? Let's go into a map, and what usually happens is you cast Wintertide. Let me pick up some links real quick because I'm doing a lot more damage than I just did right now. So you guys can see what happens. So you attach it, and then you see it only hits one enemy, and then it starts chaining to the other ones. So that's where the issue comes in the clear speed, right? It only kills one, and then it starts chaining, so you have to wait for the first one to die. And that's really bad for the build. And that's where you want more chance speed, because the more chance you have, the more it activates, and the more time, basically the higher, the faster the DPS increases. And that's what's really important. However, this is too slow in my opinion for a build. You know, like you have to wait for that one to die in order for it to leave, and then do that. So the best way to fix it is actually doing a lot of testing only conquest. What happens is it says brands attached to a new enemy each time they activate, no more than once every 20 seconds. This is crazy for Wintertide because Wintertide is such a low activation frequency. Because it's 0.15, right? So you have to gain 2 stages for 40% more damage, and then it split changes. So again, 2 stages, changes. 2 stages, changes. And as we know, every time that Wintertide deactivates, right? Every time it deactivates, it does a debuff. So what happens is every 0.3 seconds, it's going to apply a debuff. And now you can see it. I'll give it another one link. You see how much debuff is applying now?
Getting angry.
It's just chaining like crazy. And that's where it becomes so much beautiful. You combine that with the cultist little profane doom and the curses, then you get a lot more clear speed. If you guys want a quick example of that, I'm pretty sure you guys saw in the gameplay, but I'll show you real quick of how crazy it can be. Let's pop this little legion. I have to kill this real quick. You put it everywhere. You can see that it just starts chaining by itself. Put a pulse snap, and then you just run around and you blow up everything. Look at that ball.
What the hell?
Right? And that's where the skill, that's where the clear speed really starts to like show itself. Without that one Holy Conquest node, it doesn't do a lot of clear. If anything, the clear is really bad, I would say. But once you get that brand middle cluster, which isn't too expensive, honestly. it's like a brand new different skill. It's like something completely different. It is a complete 180. I don't understand stuff like that, but whatever. But you see what I'm talking about. So really, for Wintertide to really stand out, you want Holy Conquest. And at the same time, this is why cast speed is so important, because you actually want to get more cast speeds in those 0.3 seconds in duration, because that means in those 0.3 seconds, as it chains, it gets another buff. So let's say instead of my activation frequency being 0.14, we say 0.10, right? The activation rate is 0.10. With 0.10, it gains 3 stages for 60% more damage, and then starts chaining. Now, this does not affect the skill card, because you only find the boss, and there's nothing near that boss. They're not going to move. Don't worry about that. In addition, you're going to see a duration and cast speed, more emphasis on cast speed, in order to get 20 stages. Now, another cool interaction is most brands on the random tree in the game can only have one brand attached to the enemy. And then you get 2 for Moonbinding. Wintertide Special, where you can actually attach 2 brands, and then with Moonbinding you have 3. This makes the Cluster Jewel a brand loyalty, which means it takes 5% increased damage taken per brand attached. A lot better for Wintertide, because that means it's 15% over 10. Not too big of a deal either way, but it's still really good. But over and all, we're using a very cool amount of tools. First is going to that cool interaction I was talking about with the fire damage, right? I want to say cool, it's kind of disappointing. So one of the ways the damage gets insane is elemental equilibrium. It says only if you deal with elemental damage temporarily get less resistance to that element, if you slowly get plus cold, but they get minus 50 to everything else. Well, technically, since you're doing fire damage, so it does with Wintertide, right? Technically, Wintertide will hit you with fire, and then the degen for cold will have minus 50 cold, and the degen will do more damage. Turns out that's not true, and I'll tell you why. There's a cool, I won't say cool, but there's a visual look. I'm gonna leave this, so I don't get about that. You see that little purple thing? You see that little purple thing under their feet? That little purple thing is elemental equilibrium. That little purple circle. That is the elemental equilibrium. That goes to show that elemental is active on the enemy and killing them. I do some of my overstorms because it does lightning damage, and thus it lowers their cold res. Well, if Wintertide hit, right, you would see that same circle. Observe. You don't. You literally do not. There is no circle. The only thing that can probably cause a circle is the explosion, since technically it is a spell. It's considered spell damage, I would think it is. And the fire damage would probably apply to that. Don't quote me on that, but that's the only way, because if you see here, there's no circle. What you're seeing, if you see a little purple, it's kind of hard to tell. That little purple thing is malediction. Right, that's from my curse. That's from my occultist. Elemental equilibrium is like a rainbow color. Right, you see that little rainbow under them? It's kind of moving. That's completely different. So if you go into an enemy, you're not going to see that rainbow under any of them with Wintertide. It doesn't exist. So that goes to show that Wintertide actually doesn't hit, and that's just a visual bug. It doesn't do anything. Right, so let's get that out of the way. So now that we know Wintertide doesn't hit, the only ways that we can apply, the elemental equilibrium is with Orb of Storms, and that's really good, because if you link Orb of Storms with increased critical strikes, it has a higher chance to crit, and then we can proc Elemental Overload for an easy 40% more damage, which does affect our damage over time. So really, the ways to make this damage go crazy, in my build, what I'm trying to go for, is we're using Elemental Overload 40% more damage, Elemental Equilibrium for minus 50 res for cold res, and affects damage over time. And then I went low life for pain and 2 minutes, get 30% more damage. If you... Don't happen. But let's just ignore that. If you use... Let's recover this real quick. If you use Prism Guardian, which reserves all the auras on your life, right? Not only does it do that, it also gives you... Let's recover a little bit more life with my Consecrated Ground. Put auras back on. It also gives you 25% reduced mana reservation. What's cool about the shield is that if you use the Blood Magic Gem to reserve your auras, it has a mana multiplier, so your 50% reserved cost turns to 100. While in this shield, it instead goes to 31, especially with Sovereignty. What that means is you can actually put Malevolence, Zealotry, and Hatred, which are 3 50% auras, which all affect, give you more damage for Wintertide, all in your life pool. That's insane. There's nothing that can give you that much damage. Making Prism Guardian probably the best in slot shield in terms of damage, meaning that we can put in our a discipline into our mana pool a blasphemy, as you guys can see, I have blasphemy curse. Since Wintertide doesn't curse, the only way for us to explode enemies using occultist profane bloom, because cursed enemies you or your minions kill exploded, is through our blasphemy. You can also use Witchfire Brew, which it is a blasphemy curse with despair. And then on top of that, what you could do is also use an aspect of spider, which we're going to do at the end of the day, making our mana pool less than this, but we have enough mana regen, as you guys can see here, where I don't really care, especially with Arcane Surge. And we're good on mana, that we don't even need a mana pot, we don't need energy lead, anything like that. Right? So, at the end of the day, the amount of damage we're getting is absolutely insane. We're talking about 40% more there, 30% more there. Here, 20% more. This is a level of 21. It goes up to like 22 with the shield. Another 20% more there. Another 60% more. Another 18% more. Right? We're doing dual curse between occultist right here, so that's more damage from frostbite, more damage from despair. That also makes them take damage. On top of that, we're using a lot of cluster tools that are very unique to actually buff the build to a different degree, and it's really cool. So yeah, if you go into my PvP, you guys can see what the cluster tools I'm talking about. We have Wish for Death for Calling Strike against cursed enemies, which are always going to be cursed, and then Master Your Fear, which enemies you curse are unnerved, making them take increased spell damage, which does affect fire damage over time. On top of that, we do have, this is supposed to be the brand one, but for some reason it's bugged out. We have Holy Conquest with brand loyalty for the 3% increased damage taken, right? Which is right here actually. This one's a different one. This one on the right is actually this though. For some reason it's bugged out. It's the Foul Invigoration for ES, damage over time, guarantee 2% ES chill, more regen, and exposure therapy for more chaos resisting against damage over time, since the low life build biggest weakness is chaos damage. And then at the end of the day, if you force conduction, since we're going to kill our enemies, we can also talk to them. We're going to take another 50% of damage taken. So we have so many more multipliers in the build, it's absolutely insane. So we can figure that our damage is going to be stupid crazy. QB determines at 1.2 mil, you see range, that's what? 1.28 times 3, we're talking about almost 4 million DPS, not including the 5-link cold snap into our helmet, which is almost another million. So we're looking at about 6 million DPS. It's pretty good considering most bleed builds have like what? 2 to 3 million bleed DPS, especially for bleed bow using an island. We have double that in terms of full damage over time. And at the end of the day, the build that I'm working on should have more than 7,000 PS. That's when I'm calculating this one, so I'm losing about 3,000 PS. And that's some damage and a good amount of regen and everything. So on top of the explosions that we get from occultist, this is pretty crazy. And I think it's gonna be one of the best builds, if not the best build for Wintertide in general. Now the only thing that in this build that costs a lot of money is ideally shabs, as Ryan Gaze, Prison Guardian, all this stuff is really cheap, but relatively cheap.
I've seen your strength.
Fairly budget.
Take from me what you will.
15 chaos. I bought my shabs day 2 for around 210 chaos, and then I think now they went up in price for about 350. So yes, it can be expensive, but of course,
you will not break
to use it, you can go the budget version, and then just use, where is it? A Solaris Larco, which does the same thing, but it doesn't give you ES. So it's strictly a budget version of the build. But that's pretty much it, guys. That's how the build gets so much damage. We're just stacking so much damage over time multiplier, and more damage from auras and everything, and increased damage taken from Masters of Spider, Malediction, Shock, the brand loyalty, the curse effect one, that we're gonna see some insane DPS, bro. And yeah, this is pretty much my take. This is what I'm working on. There is a hybrid life one, not hybrid life one, an Eldritch Battery one, but it's nowhere near as good. Nowhere near as good. It is cheaper, and that's what I kind of was going for my room starter, but once I bought my stab, I kind of just ignored it and just started going for my low life version. And lastly, for those people who really want to use my MTX, all I'm using right now is basically the Arctic Armor set with the Ice Shield. I'm using the Grand Sanctum Hood with the Arcane Horns Home enchantment, and the Pitch Black Bandana, so that way you can cover your mouth, is kind of cool. And then the Benevolence Wings for the new Wings from Support Pack. The Redeemer ones are also nice, or are they? Right? I think it fits it well too, but the big buff wings are pretty dope too. I don't mind that. I have the selection character effects, dragon, whatever, the ice frog. If you want to know what this is the Cold Snap hand effect. It just makes a hand. And Wintertide doesn't have any MTX, so there's nothing there. Otherwise, I'm using the Transcendence Dagger, and that pretty much covers the MTX that I'm using. And with that, guys, that pretty much covers everything I know about Wintertide right now. If you have any questions, or if you know something I do not know, please let me know, because I love to learn more about the game and the stuff, because it is what I'm trying to min-max right now. And yes, in the future there will be a build guide coming soon. Once I have all my cluster jewels set up, and that's the reason why I have like 7 points of use on the video unallocated, is because I'm waiting for large jewels, and they each cost like 50 freaking chaos for one 8 passive large jewel that has a high level item level 75, which means they can get 2 jewel sockets. Yada yada yada. I'll get there when we get there. But I'll make the build guide when we get there. Hope you guys enjoyed what you saw. Hope you guys consider Wintertide if you haven't started the league yet as a possible option, you know, to league start with. It's really good. It's really broken. Of course, not as broken as Wave of Conviction because it's completely bugged out if you haven't seen Math's videos. But yeah, it's up there and it's doing a really good DPS, a lot more impressive than I thought it would be. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. Quick update. A lot of people are asking me for the Roshi build. Yes, it's going to be updated. Just give me some time. I have to go back and test some things. The tree's already been made, but I don't know how efficient it is. So just give me some more time with that. Thank you guys so much for enjoying that build. I love that build. Yeah, until the next build guide or informative video, have fun farming out there, exiles. I'll catch you guys later.
Just walked into your tomb. Don't lock me up again. I know when I am defeated. Not every fight. Consider us even.
Go where you went. Hey guys, Tucker here, and this is our first Baycast after the Harvest announcement, so that's very exciting. So expect a lot of rampant speculation, and then in however many weeks' time, us will be completely and utterly wrong on every opinion we have. So to start off, Bryce, what did you think of the Harvest announcement?
I don't give opinions, I only throw down facts, my dude. And Harvest is looking great, honestly. I think I'm getting exactly out of it what I was expecting. I wanted like I know this is blasphemous, but like a synthesis bestiary type of thing. And I think that's pretty much exactly what we're getting with my favorite type of balancing sprinkled on top of any balance.
You're not gonna send me back to the dark! Not on my life! Back to the bin! Let me recruit a numpty to this job. It's an old pirate trick. You attack when the worst man is on watch. Yeah, makes it easy. So what do you think?
I did like a fresh start thing to practice with Soul Rend. It's pretty good.
Good choice, Exile. Yeah, yeah,
I saw it on the Typecular's thing, and the Carve was playing it, or he was like coaching him through it. It's pretty freaking good. Honestly, it's a pretty serious contender to pretty much the only other like good setup for leveling, which is Causticara. Causticara is really good for leveling, but you know it's a little bit awkward switching from a bow to then like do spell damage stuff and all this. If you're looking at
10,000.
It is a little bit stomach heavy. Like if you ever let a level with essence ring, like station setup and everything, you need to like more different socket setup. Pretty much exactly that. But I think it's quite frankly, I think it's one of the best league
Our
starters
crop
that's
is
not
ready.
onslaught
Return
based.
to the garden.
Swinger's pretty cool.
Basically, just for setting up an ED character.
Setting up literally any chaos character.
Right.
I would say.
But it's not
for
something
me-
you would like stick with through into like yellow and red maps. You wouldn't keep spell slinging.
See, I don't really know because I wanted to experiment with switching to CI as soon as possible, and Spellslinger and CI on SSF trying to switch fast, like that doesn't quite mix because you lose access to discipline unless you're like severely limiting your DPS. So I don't really know. I know Typecular took it to like tier 10s, and apparently it was pretty good. I don't know if he played past that though. I think Carve did mention that it pretty much starts dropping off around the red maps, so I think it lasts quite a minute, you know, in an SSF scenario. So that's around level 90, something like that. I mean, it depends on the box temperature.
Isn't it normally where you need all stuff though, still, as well?
Oh, ED's horrendous for leveling.
Yeah, but like even into like red maps, I mean like pretty much all chaos skills would be
I mean, I feel like that's every caster. Like, where you've got that breakpoint when you hit level 19 gems, you don't quite have, like, good enough gear. And then when you're going through, like, tier 10s till tier 15s and 16s on level 19 gems, I feel like that's pretty painful for all casters. But honestly, in my eyes, unless ED receives some changes, at least for SSF, racing to 100, it's pretty much the top contender to me. Especially with some of the brand changes that I'm not 100% on, like how the brand recall works yet.
It's pretty good.
I think you're pretty safe. I don't think ED is going to see much in the way of changes, but go ahead, Derek.
I was going to say, because I'm sure some a lot of fans talk about brands, so we can do that if we just focus on like the initial like league impression. Octavian, I'm going to save yours to last. If like we both have very different league impressions to everyone else. What about you, Niggy? What do you think of the league?
Pretty much on board with Riders here. It looked really good. Yeah, you know, I think I guess there's a little bit of synthesis in there. I mean, with the crafting, obviously. I mean, I feel like there's can be good crafting in any league. I don't know about the whole. I guess like you're setting up like a maze of plants, which is kind of like a little bit like synthesis. I guess that's kind of cool.
Wait a minute.
I think the whole farm build aspect is actually going to be pretty fun though. I don't think it's going to take too much effort, but I think there's going to be like really fun moments and things to look forward to. So I'm really looking forward to that part of it for sure. And it's not going to be as tedious as it was in synthesis, where you had to like map out this whole labyrinth thing and construct it and figure out how it worked. It's more like you slap down some plants and it's pretty easy to mess up and kind of recover, because from what I understood, you could, like, if you had one growth cycle wrong, you could just take it out and just lose that cycle and re-rage a little bit, and then you're fine. So I think that's going to be really cool. And then cool unique so far, which I'm always happy about. Lots of things happening in the skill tree, and
I'm surprised about two things, like the way they try to make sure that we know that it's easy to do the farming stuff. Like Chris mentioned that so many times. I was so surprised about that.
I think it's important. I think one thing I think has been a little bit problematic is that they've tried too hard in recent leagues to create a unique experience that on its own was like this elaborate thing and really fun, where it didn't really flow too well with just the game. So you had like these opposing two things you wanted to do, and it was it kind of felt like you were taking away from just playing PoE. So I'm happy that we just get to play PoE, and then we had kind of this like side thing that kind of augments it more.
I mean, that was the main issue that I remember you saying with Politely, is that you like traditional tower defense, that you felt like you had these two different playstyles that didn't like gel together.
Yes.
On the topic of like things gelling together, and specifically the comparison to Synthesis League, we've only seen a few of the crafting options that are available from the system so far, but I like that as opposed to Synthesis crafting, this isn't like they're adding on this extra thing, this extra layer that you have to learn. All of the crafting options so far have been things that are integrated into already existing crafting systems in Path of Exile. Like, they're very easy to understand if you know how Alt-Augry Exalt Annul works, because it's just, you know, a targeted annul, or a thing that swaps a fire mod for a cold mod. Like, they're working within the systems and doing new things in those systems, rather than being an entirely separate system with its own bench that you have to learn and understand all the ins and outs of, and you know, learn all these different implicits and all that. Like, it's much more intuitive in terms of what the recipes actually do, from what we've seen.
I think on that note, I mean, one of the things that makes it intuitive is that you have the resources and it literally tells you right there on the interface what you get.
Oh, that's
Whereas
that is
with
obviously a big step too. Yeah.
You know, I mean, with synthesis, the only way to know was to go on a spreadsheet outside of the game and then kind of search through like a browser search or whatever to find the thing, and then there's some arbitrary number. The fact that it just shows it in game is really good.
That's the bigger. That's
Perhaps
one
not
thing
as
is-
thrilling
the
as
bigger
killing
point, but that's the
someone in
point I was
cold
kinda getting
blood,
at, that it was,
but
like,
you must admit
arbitrary.
there is a
Like,
satisfaction
it
to
was
be had.
basically this whole other system that they thought up that was cool. You know, the designers came up with this cool system, and then they're like, all right, and now we put it in After Effects style. Rather than being able to design to fit comfortably within After Effects style.
My mana is gone.
Three and one is the pictures of Crystal holding out the fucking eye.
We've seen replace a fire mod with a cold mod. We've seen, you know, a targeted annulment targets a fizz mod. Yeah, defense oriented stuff. Like these are all things that just play with existing systems. This isn't a new system. This is just stuff that plays with the existing systems.
And also, conception is very straightforward. It's not that thing that PB likes to do
Reach.
where it's
My
trigger
death was
word
quick.
blind.
Yours
Train
won't.
fucking word blind. You know? Or like,
This is true.
gain ghastly apparition. You're like, cool, I don't know what that is.
No, he's does it. I know you want to
Transform
kill
oil
me.
into another
I
tier of
would too.
oil. That's like,
But
I
we
know
are like the
how that
mythical
functions.
Hydra. Cut off one
Yeah,
head,
but
two more
it does
will
have a
grow.
little bit of the
You get those long
PoE
necks
style
in the
where it's
tangle.
like,
Well,
transform
you
this
get the idea.
unique item into
I'll walk out
a
of here
unique
alive,
item, but
and maybe I'll-
also of the same type. It's like, wait, what do you mean by type? It's gonna be the same color?
That's
What's
fair,
going
but
on with
like there's still a few, and obviously we've only seen so few of the recipes, and apparently there's like a lot more complex stuff they haven't shown us yet. That's something that Bex was telling me about. So I'm sure when it actually launches on stuff, it could be a key combination action that we aren't and like oil, but at least it's at its core setup a much more approachable system. Because I know it makes sense. I know that sort of like I'm just gonna put all of these glowy items in my stash just to eventually work out how they work and drop them. And then you had all these things that just be like forming low level items within a week or two and realizing like crap, it's like, you won't have that, you know.
I mean, if you look at, I'm looking at the old synthesis implicits here, and I mean, they're all, it's just generic modifiers, like half of them, like almost all of them, like all the thing, we know all of them already. We knew all of these already, so I'm not really sure if I think that they were really new systems, I guess, in how you obtain them with, you know, event recipe, or how did it, I didn't even pay
There's a bench in the memory nexus.
I feel like it was more of a UI or UX problem. I don't know which term to use here, but I feel like that was the problem with it. It's not like it was that complicated of a system. It was just, it was so much trial and error, and there were so many iterations you had to go through that was just tedious. So you kind of waited for someone to do it for you.
And not only that, because it was none of it was guaranteed. You could have done everything right, gotten unlucky like 4 times in a row, and then you start doubting like, oh, did I use the right items or not? And it's like, yeah.
Which was using the system of waiting from PoE already. You know, I mean, all these systems are very core to PoE. It's just their implementation was quite awful. I actually think that the meta crafting of this league might actually be quite advanced, because essentially we get something like a fossil plus an influence exalt in one. You know, we get all these like combo pieces.
Crafting this coming league is going to be like, it's going to reach its goddamn peak. Like, I'm not trying to say that this is probably going to be a league where you can craft things that are, you know, as crazy as stuff from Synthesis League, or rather, it doesn't push the envelope in terms of what is possible necessarily, because it's working within previous systems, but it pushes the envelope in terms of how easy it is to make them. So more people.
I'm so surprised that you think that, because my whole thing was that I was surprised that people took Synthesis so seriously. because the intent was drastically different as to what we're getting with this league. Synthesis, as Chris stated, was like a implicit boost. I mean, that's like 5-10%. Sure, there were some powerful modifiers like the explodey stuff that wasn't previously available, but with this system,
Cool wins.
I feel like it's a really good one because you're going to allow you're not gonna give as much room to do crazy stuff for the players who already invest a whole lot of time.
Yeah.
But then the people lower or average can really spice things up in like a pretty
Meaningful
drastic way.
That's kind of what I was saying. Like,
Oh,
the
okay.
synthesis pushed the envelope,
Cool
pushed to the top of what was even possible with an item. Whereas, like, from what we've seen, this is all purely speculatory, as Turkey said at the beginning of the episode. Like, very well, there might be crafting recipes and mechanics involved in this league that allow you to do things similar to synthesis and add modifiers that are impossible through other means. But so far, we've just seen it interact with things like influence, or act like a super exalt, or act like a super annul.
Right.
And that will open up crazy good endgame items to more players. So this league probably is going to be more impactful in terms of the crafting that it allows for the player base than synthesis was, even though it won't make as crazy items at the top end.
Also, it will introduce a lot of new people to the system because there's a lot of people who are afraid to craft. Like, they have this fear that they're wasting their currency. It's something I've experienced quite a lot with the series I've been doing with my patrons. I've had people message me like, hey, please, when you review my build, don't add anything I can't easily buy because I don't know how to craft, or I don't like crafting, or like I'm afraid of crafting. So with a system like this where it's like add an influence, you can be like, oh, so I've got the item I type, I add the influence, oh, I got the thing I want. It introduces people to a lot of systems, which I think is good.
That's why I recommend for everybody to play SSF at least once, man.
Yeah.
Because it's like, it just gives you so much freedom. You're just like, I'm just gonna click this chaos. And I know it's probably not a good idea, but fuck it, dude. And you never feel bad about it, and every now and then, you feel real good.
Yeah.
It's not as much of a problem anymore because map
Yeah,
system is
you don't
like
worry about trading.
basically no brainer. You put map in device and you'll get maps back. It doesn't really matter what you do. But back when it was much more of an issue, solo self-bound, like when I first was getting into it, is what made me realize, oh, so I should just be chiseling and alching and sextanting like all my maps, because when you're in solo self-bound, what else are you gonna do with them? That is their whole purpose, But in Trade League, I was saving them just so I could get that big map at the end game and only use them on the most important map, but really just use them.
What about you, Steve? What was your reaction? I mean, obviously you had people days seep in on it, right?
How much in advance did you know?
I think the press tour was a little bit under a week before. So yeah, like actually 5 days or something, I think, to set up. I think I'm pretty in for it personally. I love the crafting league. You guys all saying to me it's more like Tertiary and Metamorph hybrid. I don't really see too much interest going on here. I think it's just the purity of crafting was the worst problem that I had. Because I personally love like any crafting kind of coming along with league stuff is the favorite thing they can give me. But I didn't even end up using synthesis crafting that much. It was just too obscure and painful to engage. Figuring out what they did, and hell, I'm happy to get on PoEDB and do lots of crafting and check out local things and come up with combos and stuff like that. But synthesis is on this level of obscurity beyond that, like figuring out what items you need to design and what other things are possible and getting the right mod tiers and grown. So this seems like the complete opposite of that, because everything is set in place. And like Kevin was saying, it's all within the current game systems. I think my biggest concern for the implementation of Harvest crafting is the fact that everything in the crafting that we've seen so far pretty much references tags, like appliance or defense. And there is no explanation in game anywhere of what those tags are, which mods have those tags. Should be able to hold the alt or whatever and see like the tags for each mod to like, see that this is physical. Because if we want this to be something that like what Taki was saying, where this isn't an insult, you can get an insult effect without having to physically use an insult, which is typically something that nervous about crafting for the first time to do. You can be like, buy 5 items, that's all I'm gonna get. Or I can flip this and have no idea if it's gonna be a good idea or not. If you want people to actually like engage with that properly, then
Damn.
what's it gonna do? Well, they need to be not about to do a craft and be like, I want to interact with this armor mod that I have. I'll use this physical craft because armor, physical. That makes sense, right? Obviously.
I mean, there was I can't remember specifically what it was, but there was the whole thing where I spent a whole lot of currency, and then Octavian was like, "Yeah, that didn't work because of X," and I was like, "Oh yeah, fuck them." So
Yeah.
I'm 100% on board with that. Yeah.
Okay, without worrying people too much, if you're on trade, the same thing will happen with this league, by the way. But in terms of like the fear of drafting, because these are seeds, and once people figure out what the seeds do and which ones are used for the certain crafts, they will start hoarding them. I think it's more like it's more about players just need to get a little frisky. Start taking a little chance where there might be a little loss. There's so much fun to game. If you're always worried about whether or not you're getting the most out of it, all I can say is that you will never get the most out of it. Right? I mean, I remember like spending 600 chaos this league on a Vermilion ring, and I ended up with nothing. It's just like, I really need to upgrade my ring, and I ended up just kind of throwing 600 chaos away. I was like, whoops. That was a bad idea.
You're supposed to be encouraging them, Noogie.
You really sold this crafting idea to me, Noogie. Thanks. I think I
do hate my money. I'm gonna do what Noogie did.
I mean, we've all done that thing though, where you're like, okay, I've saved up like 2,000 alterations. I'm using those for like an end game craft. But for now, I'm just gonna use like 200. Okay, just 500.
Yeah.
And then you like rage through 2,000. Like, why hasn't this mod appeared?
I do the thing that Noogie says, like especially if I'm racing and I'm just like, people are like, right, you're complaining about not getting maps, just use your scarabs, just use your fossils, just use whatever, and I'm just like, dude, I don't have an unlimited amount, and then I hit level 98 and die, and I have like 300 of each in my stash, and I'm just this motherfucker. It happens every time. I'm so awful about that.
99 elixirs after you defeat Sephiroth, kinda.
Yeah, but then chaos, I can spam that shit all day.
I 100% agree though with Siggy that we need a way to see what we're getting in terms of crafting. Like it needs to be easier to see what kind of outcomes I could expect.
I'm always on board with more information for players. Like that, there's oftentimes a view taken by some of the parts of the community that will devalue things. I spent all this time going, you need to look all this information up. You should have to too. And like, it's just, it's not handholdable.
It tells you exactly what it's going to do.
The item you're about to use does.
Proceed,
It's not telling you what to do with it. It's just giving you accurate information of what it will do. It's still your decision whether you use it, how you use it, and when you use it.
You also can't make the argument that it will confuse new players because we have advanced tooltips as an option. Like when you've got like special options to show more stuff, you can't then be like, oh, but we can invade new players. You could argue that maybe the like stuff would get too filled up, but some of the items they've made in the like essences and all these random things. It's
Maybe
like
two of those. It's like you click Alt, it shows one. You click Control, it shows the rest. Then you click Shift, it shows even more. It's just like, just so it doesn't hit you with like a fucking wall.
I mean,
Control, caps, hold an item.
You also have to like, there'll be like vol skills, and you like hover over the vol, so it's like your screen top to bottom going to the edge.
I think it's Vol Cold Snap actually doesn't fit on the screen.
There's a couple, yeah. Cold Snap's a good one.
Alright, so now for the slightly spicier bit. So Octavian, what was your initial reaction to the league?
I thought it was a pretty cool idea.
Cool idea. You must be someone very intelligent came up with an idea that good.
See you.
Why do you ask?
Oh, I don't no reason.
Just for the podcast.
You can explain it maybe.
What Turkey is talking about, and anyone who saw his league reveal stream or the YouTube video we put out recently, is that Turkey and I, before we went down to New Zealand, foolishly decided that we would be amateur developers and try and work on a league design concept. And the league design concept we came up with, I don't think we had a name for it,
No.
but essentially you would find like carnivorous plants and then you'd kill them and you'd take their seeds and you'd go to your garden and you'd grow things in your garden and then you'd get cool crafting options out of your garden, like being able to target a null a certain mod off of an item, all that sort of stuff. And this was a couple weeks before we went down to New Zealand for the ExileCon trip. It was very rough and very like bare bones in a couple of Google Docs and some Discord conversations, but it's, you know, it was just eerie seeing a very similar league mechanic be the one that was revealed.
There was a good
Warm
2
nights.
hours of I was watching like Ziggy's videos and stuff, and I couldn't take in any information because I was like, "This is our league. What the fuck? This is our no like." And I was like rewatching it, and like, if you actually go back and watch my Twitch VOD, it's worth watching it. Just so you just like, the fuck, dude? Like, no?
Great.
Yeah, it was. I'm still like coming to terms with that, and I was trying to explain this before the stream. It's not like a situation of, oh, they stole our idea or stuff, but it's just, I've never had a league before where I've had so much emotional investment in it, and there are certain things that were different. So like the fact that like with the stuff that we were kind of thinking around.
You mean worse? Or certain things that are worse
Well, yeah,
than
because
your idea?
our idea, we had these cool carnivorous plants that you'd encounter in maps, right?
Okay.
Well, no, but this is exactly it, because you can't instantly think, well, we would have done this different, well, they've done that. So
Like, think Blight but thorns.
yeah. So yeah, it's new.
Yeah. But the thing is, when Ziggy asked Chris about how they came up with it, that was when Chris said, well, we were at Jonathan's house.
Well, but that story doesn't
at a
actually
grill.
make sense, though.
No, but he never, well, that's the thing, but he never specified what time. Maybe
but
it was that time when you were telling them about it.
But
when we were at
Jonathan's house at a grill.
Yeah. I mean, we did actually talk to some devs about our idea. And again, I don't think that like anything, because it's also some of those things of, if you say I want to add gardening to Pee-wee, there aren't many ways to do it. If you're like, oh, I think that'd be fun. And Orion, who some people might know, I was speaking to Orion about league ideas, and he had a very similar league idea. It wasn't a very unique idea. But I did speak to Bex, because I always speak to Bex after league announcements. And I was like, oh, it's really weird, because like, you know, we spoke about this idea to Chris, and she said, oh, I spoke to Chris about it. He wasn't in the meeting when it was pitched. So it's not a case of he acted. So again, I'm not saying anyone stole anyone's ideas or anything. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying I have a weird emotional investment with the league. So yeah, it's hard to separate my like criticisms or anything like that because yeah. Anyway, we all know that Moors had this league.
I mean, it is a very innovative league. It's not like any other games done before.
It's a very straightforward idea, and again, like we all stole Moore's idea, so it doesn't matter.
I am surprised that we don't buy something to get the seed in the first place.
I think it's weird, yeah.
We just walk over and pick up the seeds, but it's kind of funny. It's like when we always buy it, and now it's like, hey,
Come on!
Wait,
Get it.
You're right.
Very purposeful decision. I think it's a very purposeful decision.
Yeah, straight after delivery.
We've had this conversation a few times with devs on the Bay class where they talked about like, oh, maybe we'll start cutting league mechanics. You know, maybe Torment will go or something like that because mapping is getting too clustered and overblown. So having the thing be separate in its own zone, akin to say Delve or the Vault Temple, I think makes a lot of sense.
Yes, I did.
What I want to know is why didn't they implement like 10 different trowels and pairs of glove types that you have to equip to harvest different seeds? Or maybe like some sort of seed net sort of system. You have to match the right colors to get the right seeds.
I mean, the most important thing that it was missing from our original concept is we had this mini game where you have to train farmers in cultivating of plants. And I think it's really disappointing that I mean, what about the horses and the cows, and then we had the thing with the tractors. Yeah.
And if you logged in at crack of dawn, then you'd get a benefit for waking up early to go out to the farm.
I'll be down for that. All bird farming.
See, but the thing is, I feel like 2 years ago that would have been the league, right? Like, we needed synthesis. We needed Be Scary, okay? Or else.
There was
Gloves and
there was
everything.
that weird period of time where every league would just get like higher and higher concept, but more crazy. And now they're kind of like, okay, we can still do high concept, but let's do like simple.
But I really like that though. I really, because I know people complain about that a lot, but the more I was talking about all the features, I really enjoyed the simplicity, but then also a little bit of everything. I thought Synthesis, despite its flaws, captivated that pretty well because it was paired up with a lot of changes regarding abilities. Now we're getting reworks of Yeegs on top of it. We're getting crafting. We're getting like potential bossing. We're getting reworks of abilities, and I guess you can argue you abilities. Like there's just so much of everything. I find that great. A lab change for the first time in like ever.
Some kind.
Yeah,
I don't want to. I don't want to get people's hopes up too much about that. People are gonna have like wild, crazy ideas about they're fixing lab. They're gonna make it fun. The lab's gonna be great.
It'll be like a different chest at the end of it, yeah.
Lab is gonna have lab but green or something.
Yeah.
Like, I think the new lab is gonna be cool, but I don't think it's gonna be world shaking. Lab is still gonna be annoying if you don't like lab. I'm pretty sure.
But they're underselling it so much, but not in the usual style. Like whenever GG would be like, we're underselling it. Like don't worry. They would straight up say like, don't worry about it. But this one, they're keeping it. I mean, it's the most mysterious thing about the whole release, right? Like, you don't really know anything about it, and Chris wasn't willing to talk about it. I feel like this is the fucking bomb, dude. They're gonna drop the nuke on this one.
I hope you're right.
When I remember the threads. Rise made me happy again. I was so hopeful.
I remember. This isn't the sort of thing that you would advertise, right? Because nobody's gonna give a fuck about it. So, player base, you can drop the bomb, but like you're not gonna be like, oh yeah, come over to PoE for your puzzles.
Okay,
Like,
so this I think was my favorite thing about announcement day is I raided Suit Size Small after my stream. That guy was losing his fucking mind. Because if you don't know, Suit Size Small is, you know, PvP Lab guy, he's running it every day. He was like, what's this thing? What do they do? Who do I talk to? I've never seen someone so animated.
I really care too. I think the player base gives a fuck. Like I think they really care. I think some people don't even recognize they potentially care. But I'm just saying, from like advertising to people outside of the game, it's much cooler to show like, yeah, big earthquake, go boom, right?
I mean, even if
Big
it's just
earthquake,
like
yeah,
souped up
that's me.
Uber Lab, where you know it's Uber Lab but 10 levels higher, and Uber Azaro has all these crazy new mods that he's gonna murder you with, I'd be cool with that. That would be really fun. Because that would take me back to the days when Uber Lab first came out, and I remember watching like videos on Lincoln's channel here of like, you know, really slow, methodical runs through Lab, getting every little bit of loot, and getting real happy at the boxes at the end, like those huge loot explosions of whetstones and whatever. Like, I would love to go back to a feeling like that, but I don't think this is going to change, like, I don't think it's going to fundamentally change how Lab functions. I don't think this is going to fundamentally change how enchants function, with, like, you know, the long-standing concerns that people have about the system.
Don't say that. This is my only chance to be at the 1% again, Octavian, please.
Okay.
I think,
yeah.
Go ahead.
I imagine they would tie like the
North.
enchant fixes
Up.
to this. Rise, I'm sorry, but
Northwest.
I don't know. People in chat always like Ziggy knows.
Okay.
I know the
Up,
exact same
north,
amount of
northwest.
stuff that you all know now. I've revealed everything. Everything to you that I knew. So yeah, speculation. but
Okay,
that is
so
it.
just to ask Rise real quick. So I have a really rocky relationship with my dad. Will the new lab fix it? Probably okay.
Is your dad a lab farmer? That's a lot of stress. I mean, Chris even said that there's like multiple ones of them, no?
Yeah,
He
that'll
said
be
like, oh, maybe there's gonna be one like this, one like this. Like, come on.
I mean,
There's
think
gonna be
about
one that's gonna be like
I can do it.
master, a melee one, you know, maybe utility.
Maybe.
Think about what they're doing in this league. It's all experiments. It's all about creating new systems. why wouldn't doing a new
Give
lab
me another
have some
stone.
kind of implication in what they would like to do
Damn
with
it.
lab in the future? Why would they even use lab as a like an upgraded version through this system? Like who likes it that much that they think it's just on its own without having any improvements to what we actually get out of it from a reward point of view, thinks it's that great.
The problem is, I think you can't forget about it. That's the, like we all don't want to think about lab, but then like everybody has to do it, so you can't just like leave it be in a fucked up state, right?
I think
like eventually you have to address it.
I think the thing that needs to keep in mind is since the implementation of lab, basically none of the leagues have had any interaction with it outside of maybe I think it was like Mayhem.
Right.
Maybe ran into like a bunch of Mayhem
Best
mods
Jerry.
at the very end. But like 90% of the leagues that made them, they don't have anything to do with lab. People who wanted lab rework for ages and ages. We know with season 2 they're going to be redoing the lab system because they've said that they're going to change that in season 4. When you've got this new system, like okay, so we've got these plants, we want to come up with. I mean, I think Rory said this. It's like, okay, we want to come up with like 300 ideas for nodes when they're doing the puzzles. So just throw them all out there. They pick the best ones. They throw a bunch away. So it's kind of like, okay, how can we have these fun things for lab? Like, what can we do? Okay, we'll have crafting. Okay, we've got specified crafting. Is there anything we could do which would be like crazy? Or maybe we could do some map crafts. I mean, I guess that's kind of cool. What else can we do? There might have just been one guy at the back just like, what if we had like you could throw it on lab and then you'd get like fossil chests or extra enchant. Like that's kind of what I'm expecting. It's like you'll get a lab which is basically exactly the same. Maybe a Zara will have an extra attack or something, and then there'll be specified chests at the end of it. I think one thing which is 100% certain and something I'm very happy about, whatever they've done with lab, there'll be a very good Reddit post about it. Because okay, best case scenario, the new lab is like crazy different. Then you're gonna have loads of like Twitch clips of hardcore streamers going in blind, like in the middle of a race. Like imagine everything before Izaro is exactly the same. You're like, oh, this is super easy. You get halfway through the Izaro fight and it just pulls out like an AK-47 and just shoots you in the face. And you're like, where did that come from? And it's like, well, that's what happens if you do the blue lab. He gets an AK.
Turns out you weren't worthy.
Yeah. Or it'll be a situation where it's what I said and it's just the chests are slightly different, and then people complain, or the chest will give someone a mirror, and then it's like, dude, lab is so good now, it gives mirrors, you know.
I can 100% of the time.
Yeah, still weren't fun.
Really? To be honest, with these crafting options, like mirrors are kind of like, who cares? Just like, craft it.
I'll take yours if you want.
Whoa, okay.
Maybe once they get it.
Build or something.
I don't know, with how crazy everything's gonna be in terms of crafting, I don't know why they couldn't do something
Void,
cool with the
crit,
lab stuff
crit,
at the end.
multi,
Sure, it could just be boxes, which would be very boring and very bland. But I also think that's just losing an opportunity, you know, to try things out. I mean, they're already saying that this is an experimental league, and a lot of the systems might not even make it to like the next league. So this is an opportunity.
No, I agree. Obviously, I would much rather, but I think we have to have this realistic. This league, they well worked from home for a large part of its development, so you're not going to have to go too crazy.
But it's not like doing things in terms of making X enchant more likely or having a different font at the end is not something I think will require tons of development hours.
I know,
like
and that's what I'm expecting. Like I'm expecting
Right.
simple stuff like that.
But that's not a minor thing though when it comes to, you know, enchants.
No, I think we agree. I'm saying I'm expecting there'll be like extra enchants or the system is slightly different. What I'm saying is we're not going to have what Rise was suggesting, where it's like you enter the lab and now everything's on fire and there are new enemies. It's like a new boss.
I know. I know.
Nice.
Rise just wants to see the lab burn.
I mean, they have burning ground. They could reintroduce that into the lab, you know? Easy.
God. I think it's much bigger than what everybody's thinking.
I think it might be.
Yeah,
I hope so.
Yeah, I agree. I really hope it's really good. Maybe the new lab, they got rid of all the monsters and it's just traps. 100% traps. Start to finish.
Oh, what a... Yeah, maybe like a thing like that. The same way Monsters Treasure works, you can get one that's like, it doesn't have this, or it has this. I don't know. I don't think that would be a
whole floor
solution
is
to
lava.
anything.
The
Yeah.
whole floor is lava. Play RF or don't do lab.
Lab
Crack
is
old
lava.
Uber lab.
Yes.
I like that they're souping up other league mechanic stuff though. Like lab by itself aside, you know, whatever they do with that. You know, Super Beachhead looked really cool. There was something else. There's another. What was that? Yeah, they're doing a T16 beachhead with 20 waves, and I think the T15 has like 10, or is it 8? It's a much smaller number than 20.
Wow. Nice.
5?
What? Maybe they can go back to like the previous leagues and add the things that are missing, like
like
the
the
Uber
boss
Blight
fight.
encounter.
In Metamorph.
What Ziggy just
Uber
said
normal?
is he confirms the Harby language is going to come
It's
back in a
6.
meaningful way.
Oh.
And the Ubi Harby
Yo, I'm
is
holding-
going to finally fill in years of missing content and lore.
I know. It's been keeping me awake at night ever since Harbinger. Like,
That's a long
supposed to be some secrets and stuff with the language.
Lost a lot of sleep.
I don't know.
Are you okay?
Please,
When we
end my
were
suffering.
traveling around New Zealand, we were in separate rooms with Ziggy, but every now and then I would hear a violent scream in the middle of the night, and it was in fact Ziggy
No.
dreaming about Harbinger. Yeah, no.
Trying to speak the Harbinger language, but it doesn't work.
And you just calmly walked out of the room.
Beachhead has 6 extra Harbingers, it says. So it's going from 6 to 20 and from T15 to T16.
Why though? Like, why the fuck are they doing this? Like, don't get me wrong, it's probably fine, but like...
I think that PoE in general needs another layer in the game. And I think that's one of the reasons why many players felt that they could keep going in Delirium, because there was this layer of the fog being so good. You know, that there was always this extra thing. It wasn't that rewarding, but it was really fun to push yourself to see, oh, can I do 80? Can I do 100% Delirium? Can my build handle it? And you get overwhelmed. And so this like extra layer of difficulty, I think to have that layer on the majority of the content is something that we could really use. So I think that's what they're doing. I hope that's why they're doing it. I hope they thought that far.
Oh, I mean, we still have Delirium, right? But I do fully agree.
Yeah.
As much shit as I'm talking about Delirium on a usual basis as to the mob types and whatnot, that's my biggest issue. We've really never... I mean, I guess to a certain extent with Metamorph was the, like, how much can I push myself? How big of a risk can I take by putting in the parts? But Delirium, they really nailed that one.
Is it Delve the last how far can I push myself kind of league? It's a little more tedious, I guess, and it doesn't show up in, like... It's its own separate thing. It's its own separate...
Right, that's what I would... Yeah, that is just very separate. I guess Metamorph would be too. Well, I mean, I only see that as a good thing then. Honestly, the more of those aspects within as many of the endgame variants as possible, the better. A boss, a delve, which is like a separate map, and then in the maps through Delirium. That's cool.
I like the implementation with Delirium orbs or Uber Harbinger maps, like Uber Beachhead, a lot more than I like the Delirium mechanic in maps, though, because those feel like a separate thing you're like opting into to make a special experience, and not a like layer of difficulty blanketed over everything that if you can't handle in the moment, like your build is trash and awful. Like I don't know, like it leaves a lot more lenience for builds to grow and for players who are, you know, with less playtime or who are worse at the game to still feel good about the content they're doing, the build that they're playing.
Okay, what if they were to make Delirium, whenever it procs in a map, not a mirror, but instead a Delirium orb, like it's permanent? So, because a lot of people complained about how Delirium is timed and all that, and through that they didn't quite feel out the layers as much. What if it's just there? It's just fog.
I'm gonna veto that idea. because then you can't decide whether you want to do it or not. Like
Yeah.
if it's a mirror in the map, you can be like, I won't touch the mirror because this is a bad idea. This map's too much.
No, bottom.
Delirium orbs will still be there as an option to put on your map intentionally if you want.
I
Yeah,
hate
just have
delirium,
delirium
so I
orbs
would
drop.
hate that for sure.
Just have delirium orbs drop. Like that.
Yeah.
That just solves it. Then you just you choose. Like
Right.
if you just want to do a basic deliriized map, you just put one orb on your map and you go.
That's what I was expecting was
way
going to
better,
happen.
actually.
I thought that was going to be the implementation. It's just like delirium orbs just drop as a rare currency, or it'd
Instead
be
of
like
mirrors.
kind of like you know how they have the thing with like Atlas completion, the map bosses can drop extra things, like sometimes random uniques. I was thinking it'd be like that. Oh, bosses have a chance to drop delirium orbs. How do we
Or
feel
a map
about
that's already
Better.
built.
Oh my
Ooh.
god.
Ooh, okay.
Good idea.
This I feel like I would enjoy this more. I don't think it's objectively better. I feel
Okay.
like I would enjoy this more. Have bosses have a chance to drop a map that's already delirium orb touched, and it's a random amount of delirium.
Cool.
So sometimes you get that crazy 80% map. Sometimes you just get a 20%. I feel like a lot of people probably wouldn't enjoy that more because you want that level of control to choose what
And
you do.
also you'd
but-
have the thing where you're doing tier 16s every day, and you're getting like tier 1. Or actually, with the current map system, they wouldn't even drop at all because it'd be the wrong tier, and then your delirium map would just like.
What you do is you limit it the way that you do the Shaper and Elder Guardian map drops, I guess.
True,
So
yeah.
you wouldn't you'd only have them be T14 plus. So that would mean you'd never have delirious content in like T5 or 10 maps. Though.
I mean, do it
which is
like
not something I want.
do it like blighted maps, right? Like blighted maps have that cap at like if you're running red maps, you're not gonna drop like a tier 4 blighted map.
That's true.
So
Yeah.
if you can do it the same way,
Just have it matched here.
I find that cool.
There's one thing I would need for me to be on board with that. They need to fix how you how you search for maps and how where they're stashed.
Yeah, yeah.
It's all if you buy the stash tab, you
Right.
can't put light maps in there. Now I can't put my fog maps in there. I have to place them other places, and then the real maps over here, and then I have like.
And your guardians.
Yeah, it's a pain in the ass.
Yep.
So, if we
People-
get that fixed, then yes, I would like them as delirium maps. Otherwise, no, thank you.
I can't believe it. You make statements like this, the whole chat spams true, and then people go, "No, stash tabs are not pay to win." Like, no,
Of
you
course they are.
You don't need a map tab. It's
What
like,
is
go
that
fuck
voice?
yourself.
Who are you impersonating there? Is that your Reddit voice?
Okay,
I
how
don't know.
about this, Niggy? Would this be better?
I'm straw manning.
What if
Nobody says that?
we had a pet that would sort for our blighted maps? Hey,
Yeah.
bring it back to last podcast.
Sure.
I can get behind
Then
that.
we can have like a foggy pet, and then every new
Occasion-
map they
no,
make,
but
you have to buy a new
occasionally.
pet.
Can
for
we
it.
name him?
Yes.
Can it
Occasionally
be
the
a
pet runs
humanoid
away.
that I just chain to my stash, like a slave that's forced to
God.
chain to the stash
God,
and
Ziggy.
keep sorting through the stash?
It's very PoE.
Can I add Siggy voice lines to it? So every time I get like a delirium map, it goes moist.
What?
G'day, master. Master, bring more treats to sort. Something like that.
Not that creepy.
I
Ziggy.
just want to say
We prefer
that
them
the
white.
opinions and thoughts of Ziggy do not represent the rest of the cast. Should we say this is like pro-slavery cast or anything?
I will say though, in general, like with adding and like all these features and revamping and rearranging them, I really think that there needs to be more of a concerted effort on GGT's part to make sure that it's, like considering the flow of someone's game and how they manage their inventory and the space and how things come together. It would be really nice, especially with like older league mechanics. Because it's so much more enjoyable to play the game when you feel like you kind of have some control over that part. So it's like, okay, I have all the things, but they're just a mess to get around.
I think one of the biggest things that helped a lot with that was when we had MP on Bay class last time. He said that he started doing this thing where he would purposely like just save up all this like side content, and then he would just be like, I'm just gonna have a day of just like blighted maps, or just have a day of just this, or a day of just that.
Sure.
And since I started doing that, it was a lot of fun. I did have the problem though that when he said that, I said, "Oh, that's a really good idea." So I was then ran into the issue that Nick used to talk about. I was dumping all my blind maps into my map tab, and it wasn't until like 2 weeks later I was like, "Ah, shit," and I had to sort through every single individual thing to find them all. How do you feel about the actual implementation of Delirium though? Because we kind of talked about how we'd like it to be, but the way they've implemented it is very unique. We've never seen a system like this before.
I'm tentatively optimistic. I don't know. I think it's pretty cool. I think I'm going to like Delirium a lot more when I don't have to see it every single map. I felt the same way about Blight. I kind of hated Blight towards the end of Blight League, and then as soon as it was implemented with a 10% chance, it's like seeing a Blight is like, oh, cool, I'll do this other thing now. And having it be something you can actually target for higher tier investment, I hope it isn't like you put 8 levels of investment on this map and you're gonna get a Delirium. I hope it's not quite that common, because then it feels like a foregone conclusion. I still want it to feel special when it shows up.
I think people will end game strive to do exactly what you said. They're gonna stack things on things on things on things, and it's gonna be this.
And then it doesn't spawn and you cry.
I mean, over time it will, because you'll have like 100 attempts in a row, right? So you get like, maybe it's like 40% chance, so you work it out, and you're then gonna have 40 maps or 40 attempts of it and all that, and you're fine with that because you see, and it's just gonna be weird because, so the main way to get scarabs, which is going to be the main way to make the spawn, is by getting simulacrums. So it's gonna be this like never-ending thing to where if you're not fully juicing, you feel like crap. That's my concern.
I mean, if you're fully juicing to that degree and you want to guarantee Delirium, put a Delirium orb on your map.
Yeah, but you need to get the Delirium orb.
No, but you'll do that afterwards as you start accumulating. You'll just have this on the side.
Yeah, but if we're talking about trade
feed
league,
itself.
in the context of fully juicing, I'm always assuming we're talking about in trade. But maybe that's an incorrect assumption to make.
I mean, I agree with your point. I think we'll definitely run into the issue though, where you'll like juice up 10, 15 maps, and then it doesn't proc, and then you run like a white map for something, and it procs, and you're just like, fuck me.
I think it's a non-issue. Like I think you'll just be doing like kind of regular, not non-super juiced content, and you'll have your mirrors showing up every so often, depending on how much you're generally investing into your maps, I guess, whether you tend to go hard on them or not. And then you'll have your Delirium mods for when you're juicing. No one's ever going to be like juicing a tier 18 map and then hoping that a mirror procs. They're always going to be putting Delirium mods on the map. Yeah.
I do find it interesting to ask the question, what exactly is delineated as a mechanic and what is not? Like, does putting Rogue Exiles into the map make a mirror spawn more often? I mean, obviously, like, Blight and Breach should, but, like, what about these smaller things? If I throw some strong boxes in my map with the ambush mod on his map defense,
this is the tag issue again.
Might be a thing.
The tag issue.
Like, what counts?
Everything that interacts with it, no? But then, like, Abyss, I thought Abyss was
I mean,
supposed
basic
to, but
monsters interact with it.
Like, no.
Like,
I mean, like, well, yeah, potentially. I mean, the higher the quantity of the map, potentially the higher the likeliness of it spawning. But, like, Abyss is a weird one because Delirium definitely pauses when you're in a breach. But I haven't seen it pause when you're in an Abyss, and that would make sense to me. So, I don't know.
I believe, and this is something that I was told by my Twitch chat, so take it with a grain of salt, but I think the Delirium pauses when an Abyss is actually active and not when it's traveling.
I thought it was when it's moving, but I guess it's not. I guess it's
I potentially have it backwards. You know, Twitch chat.
I'm telling you right now, with 100% certainty, it won't pause when you're in the garden.
Oh God.
Yeah,
I'm like,
I don't. Do we even know if it affects the garden? I think that was Bex tweeted earlier that she was answering an FAQ. Yeah, whether or not it affects your garden.
And does it? What did she say?
She was writing it in an FAQ. Okay. I don't think it's been released yet.
It was Bex being Bex. She didn't actually answer the question. She just posted.
She just posted. Yes.
Yeah.
On that topic, you guys were saying about the idea of I'm gonna bank all my content. I think this is a popular one too. I'm gonna like do all my delves later. You know, I'm gonna stack this stuff up. I'm gonna do like a bunch of blighted maps all at once, like segmenting because we have so much content now that segmenting your content out in ways that you enjoy makes a lot of sense. How do you guys feel about how Harvest looks for that? Because I don't think you can do that with Harvest because yeah, you could bank a bunch of seeds and then plant them all at once, but then you got to go back to regular content to make sure that you're passing time, you're cycling time. And if you are engaging in it, then the minimum is about 5 cycles from the looks of it for a tier 1 seed. So that's doing like 5 maps effectively. So you're going to be kind of interacting with this at least every 5 maps or so in kind of a rhythmic fashion.
Doesn't it depend pretty heavily on how much gardening space you have?
Yeah.
Because like they said that plants don't degrade once they're ready to be harvested.
Yeah.
So you could, you know, if you have a lot of space to work with, you could go until you filled up your whole garden, and maybe that's 100 maps worth of running. You know, if the garden's big enough.
Or 2 minutes of going to Harbour Bridge.
And then harvest everything at once.
That's the thing I'm a bit worried about. So the way that the cycle works isn't based on running content, it's clicking on just seed chests.
Yes.
And because there aren't any like that's why I think it would have been good if there was like a monster you killed or something. Because you can just run through a map or a zone killing nothing. You just click the seed and that's progressed it. So you could still be only running tier 16 maps, but then you just go to do some rando side content just to proc it. Because you just need to enter the zone, click the thing, and it's procced. So they'll 100% there'll be somewhere where it always spawns the other waypoint. So you just do that 5 times, and then next one.
I don't think that's a problem at all.
Go ahead, Noogie.
No, but I don't think that's a problem at all, because like the thing is like you have to put in the resources first. The problem with people running Harbour Bridge was that you gained the resources out of Harbour Bridge. It was an equivalent amount of return that you got from that zone. Like, so the way they solved like the delve, for instance, was by making it scale with where you were. Like, if you try to sustain your sulfite in Harbour Bridge, I mean, good luck. You know, I mean, you're gonna get some crappy seeds. So you're not gonna be able to refill your garden if you do that thing. You probably have to get the better seeds if you want to. There's also going to be eye levels on the seeds, right? So if you want to have quality seeds and you want to have quality
but that's
outcomes,
what I'm saying though, is you wouldn't be in a situation you Harbour Bridge only. You'd be in a situation where it's like with the way people force Awakener. There was that whole thing with like running the low tier maps. I see a situation like that. You're still running your red maps. You're primarily red mapping. But when you're like, I want to harvest now, instead of running more red maps, you just go to a side thing so you just proc it in like 30 seconds. So you're doing it just to check, just to cycle it. You're not doing it to collect
Isn't
resource.
that fine? I mean, why? Because you're gonna run out of resources pretty fast that way. So it's more like you speed this up and gaining nothing else for your time, basically. You could be running maps and getting all the.
It depends pretty heavily in terms of the impact it has on Trade League, on how much value there is in rapidly rotating through seeds. If there's a lot of value to be generated by rapidly rotating through seeds, then I could see a situation where people do, you know, party shenanigans where somebody like supplies seeds to someone who can do it really quickly and they rotate through them quickly and the other person kills the monsters that are generated by the seeds, and you just churn out seed rewards really, really quickly. And, you know, if you make more money doing that, then you invest into it by a significant margin, you can just keep it going infinitely. But as far as
like that.
That's the only concern I see, is where trading comes in, to where you will have people literally just cornering the market because there's an upside there and they just keep generating this and they earn tons of currency early on, so they have like the monopoly, so they just keep setting the price and buying everything out, and that's where I see the only problem is.
I don't know if it can get to that point on softcore anymore where you can really set up a monopoly, because essentially you'd have to set up a monopoly on maps. Like maps would be the currency, right? Because that's the thing that you'd be rotating.
Well, beasts.
Yeah.
Think about beasts, because like it depends on like how rare are the seeds as well, and how will people trade them. So people, I'm pretty sure that people set up, like they would buy out and said they would what is they call it when they put out the beast and they're never selling it? I don't remember.
There's a lot of different terms.
Yeah. There might be a lot of seed price fixing. You know, that kind of stuff might happen.
I wonder if seeds will really be the determining factor. Have they stated like how accessible the seeds will be? I mean, I guess they've talked about some encounters being rather rare, which
I mean,
would-
how can it be? With how powerful the crafts are and getting 15 cycles, that's really fast.
Well, the way they were saying it though was that this is like the way for players to obtain gear. So in a way, they kind of need it to be sort of accessible.
Okay.
I think
Like I'm strictly guessing. I
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
like
obviously we don't quite
One-
know. I
one
just really
question.
wonder about that.
with the crafting stuff. So, how exactly does the crafting work? So, what do the seeds give you? Do the seeds unlock the craft for you, or do you need to like do the encounter to do the fight? So, what I mean by that is, for example, if I was to do like a week of gardening, do I then have like 100 crafts unlocked for whenever I want? Or if I'm trying to
No.
craft my bow, do I have to like do a plant encounter every time? Because that could get really tedious if it's like I'm trying to make my weapon, but I've got to do all of this side content between each individual attempt, because that could be really frustrating.
Nope.
I think you touched on my biggest
Each
my
plant.
biggest concern with the league actually
just,
is the fact that
roll.
the crafting is time limited. So you you bring in the harvest and then you have to do your craft then and there. Otherwise, like you can't bank it for later.
Yeah.
It's not like going to be stored in the bench forever, you know. Like once you lose that instance, you lose that craft, and or you condense your life force, and then that craft is gone. That's probably my biggest concern with the design of the league.
But the condensed life force, that is something that's maintained between harvests, right?
Yeah, but you can't use that for crafting. That's
I'm surprised.
for fertilizing.
Yeah, but I'm surprised that there's a system that allows for that without there being a system that allows for saving crafts for later. Since it's, evident that you can maintain, some kind of memory between the different harvests that you're doing of some resource.
Yeah, you just save them. The hash.
I think they're
full ones.
just
until you,
I think they're
yeah.
expecting, because I was really concerned about that too, the fact that you can't maintain the crafts. I think they're expecting people to not like overcraft, where you do it until
Yeah.
you hit your mod and then you stop, and anything that you have remaining you do the thing with the getting the moistening or whatever.
It seems like a weird gameplay
can't-
loop though, because if you don't retain the craft in any way, then what, do you just not do the harvest encounters because you don't have anything you want to craft then?
Yeah, you just leave the plant grown, I guess. but
I
you
don't
take
like
the
it either, but
Because that just seems really weird. Because it's like, because
It's,
think about it. You started mapping. You've planted stuff, right? You're like, okay, so I can go. You're like, well, actually, I don't want to do this encounter because I haven't got anything right now that I want to like slam. So then you just don't ever do the fight.
I mean, you don't
Until
use
you
the
have plenty on
seeds.
the craft.
It's like those guff benches, but relevant.
Yeah.
is that bad though?
That's a good comparison. Yeah.
But then you're just
That's a
playing.
good comparison.
Then you're just playing vanilla PoE for like a week until you want to do a craft session.
What?
No, it's
No,
more
you
like,
can't. You'll continuously be playing, because if you lose every time you run a map and you don't click a seed, you're losing out on a growth cycle.
Well,
that's a lot of time you lose if you don't engage with it.
Yeah,
you
but
kind of have to do it continuously.
What I'm saying is you'd just be planting and clicking on seeds. So all you'd
There's
be
a-
doing is plant and picking up effectively splinters.
There's a viewpoint that I saw expressed in chat that is worth mentioning here. I don't think it's like a perfect solution to it, but it is a way you can interact with it. Is you, once you come to learn the seeds and what they do, you just save the seeds that you know will give you a craft until you have something you want to craft on. But that still means you have to plant it and then run like 15 maps and then you get to do your craft, which is a little annoying. You can't like put in the effort beforehand and then have the craft ready for when you find something. You have to find something and then put in the effort.
And also because you've got like limited gardening space, you'll be in a situation where, so let's say for example that I like, okay, I'm playing Corster Carrot and I know that I want to craft a bow. So I'm in mind that I will eventually be crafting a bow. So whenever I get seeds which give me a good craft for a CA bow, I plant it, but I'm like, I won't fight it until I actually start crafting. to save time so that I'm accumulating it and whatever. So then I am in a situation where after a few days, I've then got like half a garden of just like potential crafts waiting to go. And then I'm limiting my space for the throwaway crafts or the throwaway rewards or whatever it is. And it feels like a much better system would be you plant the seed, you do the thing, and then you have unlocked that craft that you can use later. I don't see what is the downside to that.
It's like in Bestiary when we, I think halfway through the league or something, they changed it so that you had, instead of having a limited number of spaces in Bestiary, you had effectively an unlimited one. I think they just raised the cap like super high for the number of beasts you could have in a given pen. The solution could be just as simple. Just make the garden real big if they can do that. Like make the garden so large that it doesn't reasonably become an issue almost ever.
It does seem really big from what I've seen of the footage, so maybe that kind of is the solution. But yeah, this is like, I'm super hyped on the idea of this crafting league, and I like the way they're implementing the crafting and everything. But yeah, the fact that it is time limited is definitely like.
What is the actual?
I'm very
downside,
worried.
though?
A lot of people are.
Like, what would be wrong about saving the craft for later?
It might just be really difficult to implement for some reason we don't know as far as dev is concerned.
I mean, it's like Bestiary, but with extra steps to get there. I mean, the extra steps for Bestiary is actually capturing the beast. The extra steps here is the growing out the thing. I don't know. I don't see it as big of an issue. In a way, I kind of like it, where it's like a build up. You have the thing, and you're working to like further improve it or make it into. Because you, I mean, I guess I should have looked more at the crafts, but isn't this something that like improves an already existing item rather than create one that is now going to be like the thing for your build?
We've only seen ones which interact with items. We haven't seen any which create items.
Yeah. So
I would say meta crafting, you will try to aim for a certain set of outcomes, like a certain set of craft.
Sure.
So that will happen. I'm not sure if it's so. There's a lot of what kind of certain players will like it and certain players won't. If you always, it's the same. Like if you always want to min max everything and you're even afraid of using an exalt, you'll hate this because you're so afraid of doing the wrong thing. Like I want to save it for later so I can get the right craft on the right thing. Where a lot of the power in this, since it is so powerful, could be granted because you kind of have to use it immediately. You know, there is this limiting factor within the system to kind of force the player to engage now.
There's no
you know,
saving
that might be the constriction of it.
So
I will say though, having maybe, you know, a little pot you can store a certain plant you really hold dear could be nice. Maybe a few. You know, if you find something really cool and then you have to manage, I only have 3 or 5 slots. Maybe I have to use this now, but maybe keep that to a certain limit as well. Like if you do want to have some storage, then just maybe make it smaller. So you have to make a decision to use it to kind of force the issue on the player. Because I don't think it's necessarily bad to force the issue on a player sometimes. You know, it might feel uncomfortable, but at least, you know, there's, you know, some flow going there.
See, but all things considered, most definitely I can see this as being the biggest issue for the league. Honestly, the fact that you can't store the crafts, because it's a real Kadibra sort of flashback where it spawned a lot of annoyance. There were a lot of problems with that, and eventually it wasn't really changed, but the game was very different back then. I think this is most definitely going to be something that people are going to complain. And I'm sure people are going to make up all sorts of shit, like my map crashed, something, like they're going to put in a new map. Maybe there's going to be some bug, like, you know how with, if you find sulfite in a map, but your sulfite's full, you exit into your hideout, you go into the mine, you can only go back to your hideout once, because after you go back to your hideout and enter the map, you can't exit the map anymore because your hideout crashes and that loses you the map, so you have to pick up all the sulfide. Like I expect something because this is like a replicable bug, replicable bug that's been happening for like ever. Replicatable, yeah, that one. So like I can imagine there's gonna be all sorts of issues like that, and then those people are gonna post on Reddit, and then people who didn't have that experience are gonna be like, "Oh yes, this happened to me too," while they're just trying to prevent themselves from it happening to them. It's yeah, I think it's. I can see it being quite a clusterfuck.
How do we feel about this weird like stash thing? And I'm curious what you think of this, Ziggy, because I got the impression from when Chris spoke about it that they weren't sure about how that was going to work. But I feel like a lot of people have taken that as, oh, they've definitely got this stash tech.
You mean the seed storage?
You asked the question, will there be a stash in the garden? And Chris was kind of like, we'll have this thing where you can like pull items from your stash, but they stay in your stash. And then like you interact with it, and it all sounded very kind of like this is a very.
Yeah, no freaking clue.
Yeah,
I have no
because that system is this kind of system they spoke up before with like trading cross instance and stuff. This idea that you can like access items, like that's like very tech heavy. Like that's
the reason why they
like
can't have the stash in there is because the stash would spawn in the map.
Yeah, I know they don't like it because then, in theory, you could just get all this extra loot and it would break up the importance of items. It's bullshit. It's like it breaks up the importance of items in the inventory.
No, but it creates this new meta of how you engage with the map.
Does it really?
Yes, it does. Players will immediately then start using the stash tab in that little zone. They'll go and they'll put it in, and they'll without having to portal in and out. Because like portaling in itself is something that takes time. And so people will get accustomed to it. They won't have it next league and think, oh, I really like that last league. And so this does have implications on how people play and how people perceive how the game should.
It would also probably be like a bot issue as well.
Could be exploitable as well. You know, we don't. I'm not really sure. I definitely see why they're concerned about that and why it's like very contentious whether
Silver mode.
Have it in there and you know, because it's like people have found out all sorts of duping methods as well, right? Maybe the new duping method if you have the stash in the map and you do something.
I think we have a stash in the Delve instance, which is a playable instance.
That was a big problem, though. You don't remember that? That was an issue where people had a stash open while running Delve the whole way through. You were literally running around with your stash open, and you could do that every time for Delve. So that was kind of an issue, yeah.
Well then, doesn't that just raise the question then, what do we really need to access the garden in maps? Like, does accessing the garden in map, because that really surprised me. Especially since, like, so from my point of view, it's like, you haven't added any monsters in the maps. So you're just running the maps to collect the seeds. And you don't fight the monsters straight away because you plant the seeds and then